You know, I used to think I was fluent in English. I had a vast vocabulary, aced grammar tests, and could discuss complex topics. But then, I found myself in a London pub, listening to a group of locals, and I genuinely thought they were speaking a different language. They weren't using long, complicated words. They were using simple words I knew perfectly well, like put, get, or take, but in ways that made absolutely no sense to me. "We should put the meeting off," one said. Another replied, "I need to get my point across more effectively." I just nodded and smiled, completely lost. That was the day I discovered the secret handshake of advanced English fluency, phrasal verbs. And that's exactly what we're going to master together. This isn't just another English lesson. This is your key to unlocking a level of understanding and expression that will make you sound not just proficient, but natural, nuanced, and truly advanced. Think of phrasal verbs as the magic ingredient, the spice that transforms a bland, textbook sentence into a lively, authentic expression. They are the difference between saying "I will continue" and "I will carry on." Between tolerate and put up with. They are everywhere, especially in spoken English, business meetings, films, and novels. If you ignore them, you're missing a huge part of the language's soul. But here's the crucial insight that most learners miss: the goal is not to memorize a giant list. The goal is to understand the logic behind them. Phrasal verbs are not random. They are built on a powerful system of particles, those little words like up, down, in, out, on, off, away, through. These particles carry core meanings that, when combined with a verb, create a new, often metaphorical, meaning. For example, the particle up often suggests completion or increase. So, eat becomes eat up, meaning to eat completely. Clean becomes clean up, meaning to make completely clean. Speed becomes speed up, meaning to increase speed. See the pattern? We will break down these patterns so you can figure out new phrasal verbs you encounter, instead of always having to look them up. In this series, we will move beyond the basics. We won't be focusing on get up or turn on the light. We will delve into the sophisticated, high-level phrasal verbs that native speakers use constantly in professional and academic settings. Verbs like to piece together information, to hammer out an agreement, or to cave into pressure. We will explore their nuances, their multiple meanings, and how to use them with confidence. So, if you're ready to stop feeling lost in conversations and start expressing yourself with the clarity and color of a native speaker, you're in the right place. Let's dive in and start building up your advanced fluency, one powerful phrasal verb at a time. Our journey begins now, by first understanding why these little phrases are so incredibly powerful and how changing a single particle can completely alter the meaning of a sentence, sometimes with embarrassing consequences. Let me tell you, you do not want to confuse look up to someone with look down on them. That example of look up to and look down on perfectly illustrates how a simple particle can flip the meaning from admiration to contempt. It's this subtle power that makes mastering phrasal verbs essential for advanced fluency. Let me share a story from my early days of teaching English. A student once told me, "I need to make up my mind about which university to attend." I was thrilled she used a phrasal verb correctly. But then she added, "And after I decide, I'll have to make up a story for my application essay." I had to gently explain that while make up your mind means to decide, make up a story means to invent or fabricate, which isn't the best approach for an application. This highlights another critical layer: many phrasal verbs have multiple, often unrelated meanings. Context is king, and we'll learn to navigate these nuances together. Now, let's delve into the heart of the matter. Why do native speakers gravitate towards phrasal verbs even when a single, more formal word exists? It's about tone, efficiency, and imagery. Saying the negotiations broke down is far more vivid and concise than the negotiation ceased progress due to irreconcilable differences. The phrasal verb paints a picture of collapse, of something fracturing. It's immediate and emotional. Similarly, let's iron out the details evokes the smoothing of wrinkles, making the process feel more manageable than let's resolve the minor issues. This imagery is embedded in the particles. Out often implies revealing, extending, or eliminating. Think of figure out, solve, rule out, eliminate, or spread out, extend. By internalizing these core concepts, you start to think in English, not just translate from your native language. Today, we'll focus on 3 essential particles that form the backbone of countless advanced phrasal verbs: up, down, and through. We've touched on up meaning completion. Now, consider down. It frequently conveys a sense of reduction, defeat, or recording. For example, when you calm down, you reduce your agitation. When a computer system breaks down, it reduces to a state of failure. When you note down something, you record it on paper. Then there's through, which powerfully suggests completion, often despite difficulty. When you follow through on a promise, you complete the action. When you read through a document, you read it completely. And when you go through a difficult experience, you endure it to the end. Let's practice with a high-level phrasal verb, to weigh up. This means to carefully consider and evaluate the pros and cons of something. It's more nuanced than just think about. For instance, before accepting the job offer, I need to weigh up the benefits against the longer commute. Notice how up gives a sense of gathering all the factors together to assess them. Another great one is to back down, meaning to withdraw a claim or demand in the face of opposition. The company was forced to back down from its price increase after customer complaints. Here, down clearly indicates a retreat from a position. Remember, the goal isn't speed, it's integration. Try using one new phrasal verb today in a sentence. You might actually say, maybe, I need to think through this proposal before the meeting. You're not just learning words, you're learning a new way of expressing thought. In our next part, we'll tackle the challenge of separable and inseparable phrasal verbs, a grammar point that trips up many advanced learners. It's easier than you think, and I'll show you why. I ended our last session by hinting at a grammar point that often causes confusion even for advanced learners: separable and inseparable phrasal verbs. Now, I know the terms might sound intimidating, but trust me, once you grasp the concept, it will become second nature. Think of it this way: knowing whether a phrasal verb is separable or inseparable is like knowing whether to say I gave him the book or I gave the book to him. It's a matter of word order that can make your speech sound perfectly natural or slightly off. And the good news is, there's a logical way to approach this. Let me break it down. A phrasal verb consists of a verb and a particle. Sometimes, that particle can be separated from the verb by an object. For example, take the phrasal verb turn down, meaning to reject. You can say, I turned down the offer. But you can also say, I turned the offer down. Both are correct. The object, the offer, can come between the verb and the particle. This is a separable phrasal verb. However, with inseparable phrasal verbs, the object must always come after the particle. For instance, look after meaning to take care of. You can only say, I look after my younger sister. You cannot say, I look my younger sister after. That would be incorrect and sound very strange to a native speaker. So, how can you tell which is which? Here's a practical tip. Phrasal verbs that are made up of a verb and an adverb particle are often separable. These particles like up, down, in, out, on, off can usually be separated from the verb by a noun object. But when the particle is a preposition, like after, for, into, with, the phrasal verb is usually inseparable. Prepositions need to be followed by their object immediately. This isn't a hard and fast rule, but it's a reliable guideline. For example, run into someone, meaning to meet unexpectedly, is inseparable because into is a preposition. You say, I ran into an old friend, not I ran an old friend into. Why does this matter? Because using the wrong word order can lead to misunderstandings or make your English sound awkward. Imagine telling your boss, I need to put off the meeting, which is correct for postpone. But if you say, I need to put the meeting off, it's still correct. However, if you try to separate an inseparable verb, like saying I came a great idea across, instead of I came across a great idea, it becomes gibberish. The meaning of discover is lost. Let's practice with a high-level separable phrasal verb, to hammer out, meaning to negotiate and reach an agreement after difficult discussion. You can say, the teams hammered out a deal, or the teams hammered a deal out. Both are acceptable. Now, an inseparable one, to account for, meaning to explain or be the reason for. You must say, how do you account for the discrepancy? You cannot separate account and for. The key is exposure and practice. Listen for these patterns in movies and podcasts. When you learn a new phrasal verb, make a note of its separability. It might seem like a small detail, but it's these subtle refinements that elevate your fluency from good to great. In the next part, we'll explore phrasal verbs that have multiple meanings and how context is your best friend in deciphering them. You'll be surprised how many layers a simple combination like take up can have. As promised, we're now moving into one of the most fascinating aspects of phrasal verbs, their ability to wear multiple hats. A single combination like take up can mean entirely different things depending on the context, and this is where your detective skills come into play. Let me share a moment of confusion I experienced early on. I heard someone say, I decided to take up photography. I thought they meant they were physically lifting a camera, but no, they meant they were starting a new hobby. Then, in a meeting, someone said, this project will take up too much time. Here, it meant to consume or occupy. And later, a friend complained, the sofa takes up too much space in the living room. Again, occupy. But wait, there's more. In a tailoring context, I need to take up these trousers means to shorten them. See how one phrasal verb can span hobbies, time management, spatial concerns, and clothing alterations? This isn't an exception, it's the rule for many of these versatile phrases. The key to navigating this multiplicity is never to panic. Instead, train yourself to lean heavily on context. The words surrounding the phrasal verb are your best clues. If someone talks about taking up a sport, it's likely about starting it. If they mention taking up an issue, it could mean adopting a cause or discussing it formally. This contextual dependence is actually a strength of English, allowing for rich, concise expression. Think of breakdown. We've mentioned it meaning negotiations failing, but it can also mean a car malfunctioning, a person emotionally collapsing, or chemically decomposing something. The car broke down on the highway is clear from the subject. She broke down in tears is clear from the emotional cue. Your brain is already good at this, you just need to apply it consciously to phrasal verbs. Here's a practical strategy: when you encounter a new phrasal verb, don't just learn one definition. Explore its most common uses. For take up, the core idea is often about beginning, accepting, or occupying. From there, the specific meaning crystallizes based on what follows. This approach is far more effective than rote memorization. Let's try another high-level example: come across. It can mean to find something unexpectedly, as in I came across an old letter while cleaning. But it can also mean to be perceived in a certain way, as in he comes across as very confident. The meaning shifts from discovering to impressing, yet the particle across carries a sense of traversal or revelation in both cases. Mastering these nuances is what separates advanced learners from native-like speakers. It allows you to understand subtle jokes, follow complex narratives, and express yourself with precision. For instance, saying "I need to cut back on sugar" is more natural than "I need to reduce my sugar consumption." But cutback can also apply to spending, work hours, or any activity. The context makes it specific. So, as you listen and read, start collecting these multiple meanings. Keep a journal where you note down different uses for the same phrasal verb. This active engagement will solidify your understanding. In our next session, we'll tackle a group of phrasal verbs that are essential for professional and academic success, those related to thinking, analyzing, and problem-solving. We'll explore how to piece together information, think through consequences, and work out solutions. These are the tools that will help you articulate complex thoughts with ease. Moving from the concept of multiple meanings, let's now focus on a set of phrasal verbs that are absolute power tools for your mind, those that articulate the processes of thinking, analyzing, and problem-solving. These are the verbs that will allow you to describe your intellectual journey with precision, whether you're in a boardroom brainstorming session, writing an academic paper, or simply figuring out your next move in life. I remember once working on a complex project where data was coming in from various sources. My manager didn't say "analyze the information," she said, "we need to piece together what's happening." That phrase evoked an image of a puzzle, making the task feel more manageable and collaborative. It's this kind of expressive power we're after. Let's start with piece together. This means to gradually understand a story or situation by collecting and combining various pieces of information. It implies detective work. For example, by reading the emails and reports, I managed to piece together the sequence of events that led to the system failure. Notice how it suggests a process of assembly. Then there's think through, which we've touched on, but it deserves emphasis. It means to consider all the possible aspects or consequences of an action carefully. It's deeper than just think about. Before we respond to the client's complaint, we need to think through the implications of each option. This verb encourages thoroughness. Another indispensable one is work out. While it can mean to exercise physically, in a cognitive sense, it means to find a solution or to understand something by thinking about it. I need to work out the best way to allocate the budget. Or, I can't work out why the application keeps crashing. It's about problem solving. Similarly, figure out is a close cousin, often used interchangeably, though workout might sound slightly more formal in some contexts. We need to figure out how to increase engagement on our platform. But analysis isn't just about solving problems, it's about breaking them down. That's where breakdown comes in, but this time in a positive, methodological sense. To understand the market, we should break down the data into smaller segments. Here, breakdown means to separate something into smaller parts to make it easier to understand or manage. This is different from when negotiations break down, meaning fail. Again, context is king. For evaluating options, we have weigh up, which we discussed earlier, meaning to assess the advantages and disadvantages. The committee is weighing up the proposals before making a decision. And when you need to consider something quickly or informally, you might mull over an idea. I'll mull over your suggestion and get back to you tomorrow. It suggests quiet contemplation. Incorporating these verbs into your vocabulary will transform how you express complex thoughts. Instead of saying, "I need to analyze this," you can say, "I need to break this down and work out a solution." This layered expression sounds more natural and dynamic. Practice by describing a recent problem you solved. Did you piece together clues? Did you think through the outcomes? Use these verbs to narrate the process. In the next part, we'll shift gears to phrasal verbs that describe interpersonal dynamics, how we interact with others, from collaborating to conflicting. These are crucial for mastering the social fabric of English, whether you're networking, managing a team, or navigating everyday conversations. You'll learn how to get along with people, stand up for your ideas, and even fall out with a colleague. Having equipped ourselves with the phrasal verbs for internal thought processes, it's time to turn our attention outward to the complex world of human relationships. Mastering the language of interpersonal dynamics is where your fluency truly comes to life, allowing you to describe collaborations, conflicts, and everything in between with nuance and authenticity. I recall a team project where two colleagues simply couldn't see eye to eye. They didn't just disagree, they constantly butted heads. That simple phrase captured the repetitive, clashing nature of their conflict far better than any formal word. This is the power of phrasal verbs in social contexts. They convey emotion and subtlety. Let's start with collaboration. To get along with someone is fundamental. It means to have a friendly relationship. But advanced fluency involves more depth. For instance, team up with implies a strategic alliance for a specific purpose. We should team up with the marketing department to launch the product. It's proactive and goal-oriented. Similarly, band together suggests a group uniting for mutual support, often against a challenge. The community banded together to clean up the park after the storm. These verbs paint a picture of unity. But what about when disagreements arise? Fallout with someone means to have a disagreement that damages the relationship. She fell out with her business partner over financial decisions. It's more serious than a simple argument, it implies a rift. Then there's make up with, which means to reconcile after a quarrel. I'm glad they made up with each other after their disagreement. Notice how up here suggests restoration or completion. Asserting yourself is another key area. To stand up for your beliefs means to defend them courageously. You must learn to stand up for yourself in negotiations. Conversely, to give in to pressure means to yield. The government refused to give in to the demands of the protesters. This pair shows the push and pull of advocacy and compromise. Then we have verbs that describe how we perceive others. To look up to someone is to admire and respect them, as we've mentioned. But to put up with someone or something means to tolerate it, often with irritation. I don't know how she puts up with his constant lateness. The particle up with here implies enduring something unpleasant. Another subtle one is get through to someone, meaning to successfully make them understand your point. I finally got through to him about the importance of deadlines. In professional settings, phrasal verbs like report to, be accountable to, and answer for, be responsible for, are crucial. You will report to the department head. He must answer for the project's failure. These establish hierarchy and accountability. Practicing these verbs will make your descriptions of relationships vivid and precise. Try recounting a recent interaction. Did you get along with everyone? Did you have to stand up for an idea? By weaving these into your daily language, you'll sound more natural and insightful. Next, we'll explore phrasal verbs that are essential for discussing change and development, how things start, evolve, and end. We'll look at how ideas catch on, plans fall through, and trends die out. Transitioning from the dynamics of relationships, we now enter the realm of change and development, an area where phrasal verbs truly shine in capturing the fluidity of progress and decline. I remember launching a new initiative at work. We were hopeful, but we didn't know if it would catch on or fizzle out. That uncertainty is at the heart of discussing evolution, and having the right verbs allows you to articulate these nuances with precision. Let's explore how to describe the life cycle of ideas, projects, and trends. First, consider catch on. This means to become popular or fashionable. It often implies a gradual process of acceptance. For example, the new software feature began to catch on after we demonstrated its benefits to early users. The particle on suggests adhesion, like something sticking in the public consciousness. Conversely, when something fails to gain traction, it might fizzle out, meaning to gradually lose energy and come to an end. The enthusiasm for the project fizzled out when funding was cut. Here, out implies expiration or depletion. Another key verb is take off, which means to suddenly become very successful or popular. It evokes an image of rapid ascent, like an airplane. Her career really took off after she published that groundbreaking research. This is different from catch-on because takeoff suggests a quicker, more dramatic rise. But success isn't always sustained. Things can die out, meaning to become extinct or disappear completely. Many traditional crafts are dying out due to modernization. Die out emphasizes a slow, inevitable cessation. When plans fail to materialize, we say they fall through. This implies a collapse or failure after expectations were set. Our vacation plans fell through at the last minute because of a family emergency. The particle through here suggests something passing without completion, like falling through a hole. On the flip side, when you overcome obstacles, you break through. After months of research, the team finally broke through and found a solution. Breakthrough conveys a sense of penetrating a barrier. For intentional changes, we have phase out, meaning to gradually discontinue something. The company decided to phase out the old model in favor of the new one. This is a controlled process. And sometimes, we wind up in a situation, meaning to end up there, often unexpectedly. If we don't plan carefully, we might wind up exceeding our budget. Wind up can imply a conclusion that wasn't necessarily intended. Using these verbs helps you describe change dynamically. Instead of saying the trend became popular, say the trend caught on. Instead of the project failed, say the project fell through. This adds vitality to your speech. Practice by reflecting on recent changes in your life or work. Did a new habit catch on? Did a plan fall through? Incorporate these verbs into your stories. In the next part, we'll tackle phrasal verbs related to communication, how we convey ideas, persuade others, and clarify misunderstandings. These are vital for effective dialogue, whether in writing or speaking. We'll learn how to get across a message, talk someone into something, and clear up confusion. Building on our discussion of change, let's now dive into the lifeblood of human interaction, communication. The ability to express ideas clearly, persuade others, and untangle misunderstandings is where phrasal verbs become indispensable. I'll never forget the first time I had to present a complex idea to a skeptical audience. I didn't just explain it, I had to get my point across effectively. That's the difference between being heard and being understood. Phrasal verbs give you the tools to navigate these nuances with finesse. Let's start with conveying ideas. To get across something means to make it understood or communicated clearly. It's about successful transmission. For instance, I use simple diagrams to get the message across to the diverse group. The particles across suggest bridging a gap, moving an idea from one mind to another. Similarly, to spell out means to explain something in a very clear and detailed way, leaving no room for confusion. The manager had to spell out the new procedures for everyone. It implies meticulous clarity, as if spelling a word letter by letter. But communication isn't just about clarity, it's about influence. To talk someone into something means to persuade them to do it. She talked me into joining the committee. Notice how into implies movement towards a decision or action. Conversely, to talk someone out of something means to discourage them from doing it. I tried to talk him out of quitting his job. These verbs capture the dynamic of persuasion. Another powerful one is win over, meaning to gain someone's support or approval. We need to win over the stakeholders with our proposal. It suggests a gradual process of convincing. Then there's the challenge of misunderstanding. To clear up a misunderstanding means to resolve it or make it clear. Let's meet to clear up any confusion about the project timeline. Clear up evokes the image of fog dissipating, bringing clarity. If you need to correct someone politely, you might point out an error. I should point out that there's a mistake in the report. It's diplomatic and direct. In discussions, we often bring up a topic, meaning to introduce it for conversation. He brought up an important issue during the meeting. And if a conversation becomes too intense, you might need to cool down the situation. We took a break to cool things down. This uses down to reduce emotional heat. Listening is equally important. To tune out means to stop listening, often unintentionally. I'm sorry, I tuned out for a moment. Could you repeat that? It's like adjusting a radio away from a station. Conversely, to zero in on something means to focus intensely. Let's zero in on the key factors affecting our sales. Zero in suggests precision targeting. Incorporating these verbs will make your communication more dynamic and effective. Instead of saying I explained it, try I got it across. Instead of I persuaded him, say I talked him into it. Practice by recalling a recent conversation. Did you need to clear up a misunderstanding? Did you bring up a sensitive topic? Use these verbs to refine your stories. In the next part, we'll explore phrasal verbs related to challenges and obstacles, how we face difficulties, overcome setbacks, and persist against odds. You'll learn how to face up to problems, press on despite adversity, and get through tough times. These verbs build resilience in your language. Moving from the intricacies of communication, we now arrive at a universal aspect of life, facing challenges. How we talk about obstacles reveals our resilience and mindset. I recall a period when my business faced significant financial difficulties. It was tempting to avoid the issue, but I had to face up to the reality of the situation. That phrase alone carried a weight of acknowledgement and courage that simply saying accept did not capture. Phrasal verbs for challenges empower us to describe our struggles and triumphs with vivid accuracy, transforming vague anxieties into manageable narratives. Let's begin with confrontation. To face up to a problem means to accept it and deal with it bravely, rather than avoiding it. It's about emotional and mental courage. For example, after years of denial, he finally faced up to his fear of public speaking. The particles up to imply moving towards something daunting with resolve. Similarly, to stand up to someone or something means to defend yourself against opposition or pressure. The employees stood up to the unfair new policies. Here, up to suggests resistance and assertiveness. Once we confront a challenge, we need perseverance. To press on or soldier on means to continue determinedly despite difficulties. Even though we were exhausted, we pressed on with the journey. Press on evokes a sense of pushing forward against resistance. Soldier on adds a layer of enduring like a soldier, with discipline and grit. Another key verb is push through, which often implies overcoming bureaucratic or procedural hurdles. We managed to push through the reforms despite opposition. Through suggests breaking a barrier to completion. Endurance is crucial. To get through a difficult time means to survive it or manage to cope until it ends. With support from friends, I got through the loss of my job. Get through focuses on the process of enduring from start to finish. When we recover from setbacks, we get over them. It took me months to get over the disappointment. Over implies moving past something, leaving it behind. But not all efforts succeed. Sometimes we give up, meaning to stop trying. However, even this verb has nuance. I gave up smoking is positive, while I gave up on my dream is negative. The context defines the outcome. Before giving up, we might struggle with or grapple with a problem, meaning to engage with it with great effort. I've been grappling with this complex math problem for hours. Grapple with paints a picture of a physical tussle. For initiating effort against challenges, we buckle down, meaning to start working seriously. With exams approaching, it's time to buckle down and study. Buckle down suggests fastening oneself to the task. And when we succeed, we rise to the occasion, meaning to meet the challenge effectively. The team rose to the challenge and delivered an exceptional project. Rise to conveys elevation and meeting a standard. Using these verbs allows you to articulate your journey through difficulties with precision. Instead of I continued despite problems, say I pressed on. Instead of I dealt with my fears, say I faced up to them. This language not only communicates your experience but also shapes your perspective, reinforcing a proactive mindset. In the next part, we'll explore phrasal verbs related to discovery and investigation, how we uncover information, explore possibilities, and delve into mysteries. You'll learn how to stumble upon clues, look into issues, and dig up facts. These verbs are essential for curious minds and effective researchers. After discussing how we face challenges, it's natural to explore how we uncover the truths that often lie beneath those challenges. Discovery and investigation are fundamental to progress, whether in science, business, or daily life. I remember once trying to understand why a website kept crashing. I didn't just search for answers, I had to dig up old server logs and look into every possible cause. That process of investigation was filled with phrasal verbs that precisely captured each step of the journey. These verbs turn the act of searching into a dynamic story of exploration. Let's start with accidental discovery. To stumble upon something means to find it by chance or unexpectedly. It evokes a sense of serendipity, like tripping over a treasure. For example, while cleaning the attic, I stumbled upon a box of my grandfather's old letters. The particles upon give it a formal, almost literary feel, emphasizing the unexpected nature. Similarly, to come across something, which we've touched on, also means to find unexpectedly, but it's more common in everyday speech. I came across a fascinating article while researching online. When discovery is intentional, we often look into something, meaning to investigate or examine it. This is a versatile verb used in both casual and formal contexts. The company will look into the customer complaints. It implies a preliminary inquiry. For a more thorough investigation, we might dig into or dig up information. Dig into suggests delving deeply into a subject. We need to dig into the data to find patterns. Whereas dig up often implies uncovering something hidden or forgotten. The journalist dug up some shocking facts about the scandal. The particle up here brings things to the surface. Another key verb is find out, which means to discover a fact or piece of information. It's one of the most common phrasal verbs for discovery. I need to find out when the meeting starts. It can be used in various tenses and contexts. When information is revealed after search, it turns up. New evidence turned up during the audit. Turn up suggests something appearing or being found, often after not being visible. For exploring possibilities, we check out something, meaning to examine it to see if it is interesting or true. You should check out that new cafe, it's great. It can also mean to investigate a person or place. The police checked out his alibi. Additionally, to figure out is crucial for solving mysteries or understanding complex issues. It took me hours to figure out how the software works. Figure out implies reasoning and problem solving. In academic or research contexts, we bone up on a topic, meaning to study it intensively, often for a test or presentation. I need to bone up on my French before the trip. This is informal but vivid. For verifying information, we double-check or look up details. I'll look up the address to make sure it's correct. Look up is perfect for consulting references. Using these verbs makes your language more active and descriptive. Instead of saying I investigated the issue, say I looked into the issue. Instead of I discovered an error, try I stumbled upon an error. This adds color and specificity to your stories. In the next part, we'll shift to phrasal verbs related to time and schedule, how we manage our days, delay tasks, or meet deadlines. You'll learn how to put off chores, catch up on work, and run out of time. These are essential for navigating the busy modern world. Time management is a universal challenge, and how we talk about it can reveal our priorities and pressures. I'll never forget the week I had 3 major deadlines looming. I kept putting off the hardest task until I almost ran out of time. That frantic scramble taught me the importance of not just managing time, but mastering the language to describe it effectively. Phrasal verbs for time and schedules are incredibly practical, weaving into our daily conversations with ease and precision. They help us articulate our relationship with time in a way that single verbs often cannot. Let's start with procrastination, a common habit. To put off something means to delay or postpone it. It's that intentional avoidance we all know too well. For example, I keep putting off doing my taxes because it's so tedious. The particles of suggest pushing something away from the present moment. Similarly, to hold off means to wait before doing something, often for a good reason. Let's hold off on making a decision until we have more data. Hold off implies a temporary pause, whereas put off can carry a negative connotation of avoidance. When we fall behind, we need to catch up on work or tasks, meaning to do work that we should have done earlier. I need to catch up on my emails after being on vacation. The phrase catch up evokes the idea of reaching a point that others are already at, and unspecifies the task. Conversely, if we are ahead of schedule, we might get ahead of ourselves, meaning to plan or act too soon, which can be risky. Don't get ahead of yourself, let's finish this phase first. Deadlines are critical. To run out of time means to have no time left. We ran out of time before we could discuss the final point. It's a vivid way to say time has expired. When we manage to complete something just before the deadline, we make it in time. I barely made it in time for the meeting. Another common one is work against the clock, which means to work hurriedly to finish before time runs out. We're working against the clock to get this report done. Scheduling involves arranging time. To fit in an appointment means to find time for it despite a busy schedule. I can fit in a quick call at 3 p.m. Fit in suggests squeezing something into an already packed timeline. To set aside time means to reserve it for a specific purpose. I set aside 2 hours each morning for creative work. Set aside implies intentional allocation. Changes in plans are inevitable. When something is delayed, it falls behind schedule. The project is falling behind due to unexpected issues. If we need to extend a deadline, we might push back the date. We had to push back the launch to next month. Pushback conveys rescheduling to a later time. Finally, reflecting on time use is important. To look back on a period means to reflect on it. When I look back on last year, I realize how much I've accomplished. And to plan ahead means to prepare for the future. It's wise to plan ahead for retirement. Using these verbs makes discussions about time dynamic. Instead of I delayed the task, say I put it off. Instead of I have no time left, try I've run out of time. This adds fluency to your everyday language. In the next part, we'll explore phrasal verbs related to emotions and states of being, how we express feelings, moods, and personal changes. You'll learn how to cheer up a friend, calm down after stress, and open up about feelings. These verbs enrich our emotional vocabulary. Emotions are the color of our lives, and how we express them can define our relationships and our own well-being. I recall a time when a close friend was going through a rough patch. I didn't just try to make her happy, I wanted to cheer her up in a way that felt genuine. But I also knew that sometimes, people need to open up at their own pace. That delicate balance taught me that phrasal verbs for emotions aren't just vocabulary, they're tools for empathy, allowing us to navigate the subtle shades of human feelings with grace and precision. These verbs help us articulate states of being that single words often fail to capture, making our conversations more heartfelt and authentic. Let's start with uplifting emotions. To cheer up means to make someone feel happier or more hopeful. It's an active verb that implies effort and care. For example, I brought her some flowers to cheer her up after a difficult day. Notice how it can be used transitively with an object. Similarly, to perk up means to become more cheerful or energetic, often suddenly. He perked up when he heard the good news. It's like a quick boost of mood. Another positive verb is light up, which means to become bright with excitement or happiness. Her face lit up when she saw the surprise. But life isn't always sunny, we have down moments too. To feel down means to be sad or depressed. It's a common and gentle way to express low spirits. I've been feeling down since the project ended. For a more intense sadness, we might break down emotionally, meaning to lose control of our feelings, often crying. She broke down in tears during the conversation. This shows how breakdown can apply to emotions as well as machines or negotiations. Managing negative emotions is crucial. To calm down means to become less agitated, angry, or excited. I needed to calm down after the stressful meeting. It's often used in imperative form to soothe others. Calm down, everything will be okay. When we suppress emotions, we bottle them up, which means to hide our feelings, often leading to pressure. Don't bottle up your emotions, talk to someone. Conversely, when we share freely, we open up. It took time for him to open up about his fears. Open up suggests vulnerability and trust. Some phrasal verbs describe the process of developing emotions. To work up something means to gradually develop it, like courage or enthusiasm. I had to work up the courage to ask for a raise. It implies a build-up of energy. On the flip side, to freak out means to panic or become very upset, often irrationally. I freaked out when I realized I lost my phone. It's informal but vivid for describing sudden fear or anxiety. For resolving emotions, we get over something, meaning to recover from an upsetting experience. It took weeks to get over the disappointment. And when we disappoint others, we let them down. I hope I don't let you down with my decision. This verb captures the weight of expectation and failure. Incorporating these into daily use will make your emotional expressions more nuanced. Instead of I was sad, say I was feeling down. Instead of I made her happy, try I cheered her up. Practice by reflecting on recent emotional experiences. Did you need to calm down? Did someone open up to you? Use these verbs to tell the story. In the next part, we'll dive into phrasal verbs for social interactions and events, how we manage gatherings, meetings, and casual encounters. You'll learn how to show up to parties, kick off an event, and wind down after a long day. These verbs are key to describing the rhythm of social life. Social interactions are the fabric of our daily lives, from casual gatherings to formal events, and the phrasal verbs we use to describe them add a layer of authenticity and fluency that textbook English often misses. I remember organizing my first large team-building event. I was nervous about whether people would show up, how to kick off the activities smoothly, and how to ensure everyone could wind down and enjoy themselves. That experience taught me that mastering these verbs isn't just about vocabulary, it's about navigating social nuances with confidence. Let's explore the phrasal verbs that bring our social narratives to life. Starting with arrival, to show up is essential. It means to arrive or appear at a place, often with an implication of presence rather than just physical arrival. For example, over 50 people showed up to the charity event, which was a great turnout. It's casual and commonly used. Similarly, to turn up can mean the same thing, though it might carry a more informal or unexpected tone. He turned up at the party uninvited. But note, turn up can also mean to increase volume, so context is key. When an event begins, we often kick off something, meaning to start it, especially in a lively or energetic way. The conference kicked off with an inspiring keynote speech. This verb comes from sports, like kicking off a football game, and it injects energy into the description. For more formal starts, we might set up an event, which means to arrange or prepare it. We need to set up the meeting room before the guests arrive. Set up focuses on the preparation phase. During social interactions, we might meet up with friends, meaning to gather together. Let's meet up with the others after work. It implies a planned gathering. If we introduce people, we bring them together. I brought together colleagues from different departments to collaborate. This phrase emphasizes facilitation. As events progress, we might break the ice, which means to relieve tension or start a conversation in a social setting. She told a joke to break the ice at the networking event. While not a phrasal verb in the traditional sense, it's a crucial idiom for social contexts. For mingling, we get around meaning to move among people socially. I tried to get around and talk to everyone at the reception. When it's time to leave, we head off or take off, both meaning to depart. I have to head off early to catch my train. Take off is more informal. It's late, I should take off. And after everyone leaves, we wind down, meaning to relax after excitement or effort. After the guests left, we wound down with a quiet drink. Wind down perfectly captures the gradual shift from activity to calm. Sometimes, events don't go as planned. If someone backs out, they withdraw from a commitment. He backed out of the presentation at the last minute. Or if an event is cancelled, it falls through. Our picnic fell through because of the rain. These verbs help manage expectations. For successful interactions, we hit it off with someone, meaning to get along well immediately. I hit it off with my new neighbor, we have so much in common. This phrase is ideal for describing instant connections. Incorporating these verbs into your stories will make them more vibrant. Instead of I arrived at the party, say I showed up at the party. Instead of the event started, try the event kicked off. Practice by describing a recent social event. Who did you meet up with? Did you hit it off with anyone? How did you wind down? In the next part, we'll focus on phrasal verbs for business and professional contexts, how we manage projects, negotiate deals, and achieve goals. You'll learn how to follow up on leads, step down from a position, and cash in on opportunities. These verbs are vital for career advancement. Transitioning from the social sphere to the professional world, we enter a domain where precision and nuance in language can directly impact success. I learned this the hard way during my first major business negotiation. I thought I was prepared, but when my counterpart said they needed to follow up on a point, I misinterpreted it as a delay, not realizing it was a standard step in the process. That moment highlighted how essential it is to master the phrasal verbs that drive business communication. These verbs are the unsung heroes of boardrooms, emails, and strategic plans, allowing you to articulate complex ideas with clarity and confidence. Let's delve into the phrasal verbs that can elevate your professional English from competent to compelling. First, consider follow-up. This means to pursue something further or to check on progress after an initial action. It's crucial for maintaining momentum. For example, after the meeting, I will follow up with an email summarizing the key points. The particles up here suggest advancement or continuation. Similarly, touch base is a related idiom meaning to make contact briefly. Let's touch base next week to discuss the project status. Both are essential for effective project management. When it comes to leadership changes, step down means to resign from a position, often voluntarily. The CEO decided to step down after 10 years of service. Down indicates a movement away from authority. Conversely, take over means to assume control or responsibility. She will take over as department head next month. Takeover implies a seamless or planned transition. Another key verb is handover, which means to transfer responsibility to someone else. I need to hand over the files to my successor before I leave. In negotiations and planning, draw up means to prepare a document or plan formally. Our lawyers will draw up the contract by Friday. It suggests careful drafting. To iron out difficulties means to resolve them, especially in agreements. We need to iron out the final details before signing. This evokes smoothing wrinkles, making it vivid. When seizing opportunities, cashing on means to profit from or take advantage of a situation. The company cashed in on the holiday season with a successful marketing campaign. Cash in on often implies leveraging a trend or event. Dealing with challenges is part of business. Deal with is a versatile verb meaning to handle or manage a situation. We must deal with these customer complaints promptly. For more persistent issues, work through suggests methodically addressing problems. The team worked through the logistical challenges to meet the deadline. Through implies perseverance to completion. If a project fails, it might fall through, as we've seen, but in business, scale back means to reduce size or scope. Due to budget cuts, we had to scale back our expansion plans. Scale back is a strategic reduction. For innovation and development, branch out means to expand into new areas. The company is branching out into international markets. It brings to mind a tree growing new branches. And when evaluating success, measure up to means to meet a standard or expectation. The product did not measure up to customer expectations. This verb is key for quality assessment. Incorporating these verbs into your professional vocabulary will make your communication more dynamic. Instead of "I will contact you later," say "I will follow up." Instead of "I resigned," try "I stepped down." Practice by describing a recent work scenario. Did you hand over a task? Did you iron out a disagreement? Use these verbs to refine your stories. In the next part, we'll explore phrasal verbs related to travel and movement, how we navigate spaces, journeys, and transitions. You'll learn how to set off on a trip, check into a hotel, and get away with a vacation. These verbs add motion to your narratives. There's nothing quite like the thrill of travel, the anticipation of new places, the chaos of airports, and the freedom of the open road. But have you ever noticed how much of that experience is captured through phrasal verbs? I remember planning a solo trip across Europe. I had to set off early, check into hostels, and get away from it all to clear my mind. That journey taught me that phrasal verbs for movement are not just about physical displacement, they're about the journey itself, with all its twists and turns. Mastering these verbs will allow you to describe your adventures with the vividness of a seasoned traveler, making your stories come alive for anyone who listens. Let's start with the beginning of a journey. To set off means to start a trip. It implies a deliberate departure, often with excitement. For example, we set off at dawn to avoid the traffic. The particles "off" suggest a launch into motion. Similarly, to head off means to leave for a destination. I'm heading off to the airport now. It's casual and commonly used. Another great one is take off, which specifically refers to airplanes departing. Our flight takes off in an hour. But take off can also mean to become successful quickly, as we've seen, so context is key. Once you arrive, you might check into a hotel or accommodation, meaning to register upon arrival. After a long flight, I checked into my hotel and collapsed. Conversely, when you leave, you check out of the place. We need to check out by 11 a.m. These verbs are essential for navigating stays. If you're exploring, you might look around a city, meaning to explore it casually. We spent the afternoon looking around the old town. It suggests leisurely discovery. For longer journeys, you might get away, meaning to go on vacation or escape from routine. I need to get away for a few days to relax. Get away often implies a break from stress. If you're moving between places, you move on from one location to the next. After 3 days in Paris, we moved on to Rome. Move on can also mean to progress emotionally, but in travel, it's about physical movement. Sometimes, travel involves obstacles. If you run into delays, it means you encounter them unexpectedly. We ran into bad weather on the road. Run into can also mean to meet someone by chance, so again, context matters. If you need to avoid something, you steer clear of it. Steer clear of the tourist traps, they're overpriced. This verb uses imagery from driving to advise caution. When returning home, you come back or get back. I got back from my trip last night. And after traveling, you might unwind from the journey, meaning to relax. It took me a day to unwind after the hectic trip. While unwind isn't a phrasal verb in the traditional sense, it's a useful verb for the post-travel phase. For daily movements, you pop out briefly, meaning to leave quickly for a short time. I need to pop out to the store for milk. Or you drop by someone's place, meaning to visit informally. I'll drop by your house later. These verbs add fluency to descriptions of minor movements. Incorporating these into your language will make your travel stories dynamic. Instead of I started my trip, say I set off on my trip. Instead of I explored the city, try I looked around the city. Practice by recounting a recent journey. When did you set off? Did you run into any problems? How did you unwind? And here we are, at the final stretch of our journey through the vibrant world of advanced phrasal verbs. It feels like just yesterday that I was sharing my story of feeling lost in that London pub, realizing that true fluency wasn't about big words, but about mastering these powerful little combinations. Now, after delving into everything from interpersonal dynamics to business negotiations, from the nuances of emotion to the rhythms of travel, you have built a formidable toolkit. But this isn't an end, it's a beginning. The real magic happens when you step out of the learning phase and weave these verbs into the very fabric of your daily English. I want to leave you with a final, crucial insight. Fluency isn't a destination you arrive at, it's a path you walk on every day, and phrasal verbs are your most reliable companions on that path. Let's take a moment to reflect on the ground we've covered. We started by breaking down the logic behind particles, how up suggests completion, down implies reduction, and through conveys perseverance. We tackled the grammar of separability, learning that you can turn an offer down but you must look after a friend. We explored the fascinating multiplicity of meanings, understanding that context is the key that unlocks whether take-up means to start a hobby or to occupy space. We then drilled down into specific domains, using piece together for analysis, but heads for conflict, catch on for trends, get across for communication, face up to for challenges, stumble upon for discovery, put off for procrastination, cheer up for emotions, show up for social events, follow up for business, and set off for travel. This systematic approach was designed to move you from understanding to application. Now, the most important step, making these verbs your own. This requires active, not passive, practice. Don't just go over these lists, act on them. Here is my final piece of advice: aim for frequency, not perfection. You won't use every phrasal verb correctly the first time, and that's okay. The goal is to phase out the hesitation and phase in confident experimentation. Try out one new phrasal verb each day. Jot it down in a sentence you might actually use. Say it out loud. Perhaps today you decide on using way up in a decision-making conversation. Tomorrow, you point out an observation using bring up. This consistent, low-pressure practice is what builds up muscle memory. Immerse yourself in environments where phrasal verbs flow naturally. Listen out for them in podcasts, movies, and conversations. Pay attention to how native speakers slip them into dialogue with ease. When you hear one you recognize, take note of the context. This passive absorption works together with your active practice to solidify your understanding. Remember, you are not just learning vocabulary, you are learning a new way of thinking. You are learning to see the world through the lens of these expressive combinations. I want to thank you for sticking with me through this comprehensive guide. Your commitment to brushing up on your English and pushing through the challenges is commendable. You have now armed yourself with the essential phrasal verbs for advanced fluency. So, go ahead and take on the world of English conversation with newfound confidence. Keep up the great work, and never stop building on what you've learned here. The journey to mastery is lifelong, and you are well on your way. Carry on! Have you ever been in a conversation where you grasped the topic perfectly, yet your own responses felt clumsy and inadequate? I remember sitting in a crucial university seminar, my mind buzzing with ideas, but when I opened my mouth, only simple, overused words tumbled out. The professor's polite nod and the slight frown from a classmate told me everything. I wasn't communicating my intelligence, I was masking it. That moment was a wake-up call. It wasn't about being the smartest person in the room, it was about having the right tools to express that intelligence. This is why I became obsessed with advanced English vocabulary, and it's why this resource, Advanced English Vocabulary, 1000 Words for Academic and Daily Life, was created. It's more than a list, it's a key to unlocking a more precise, powerful, and persuasive version of yourself. Think about it, language is the primary lens through which we interpret and interact with the world. A limited vocabulary is like looking through a dirty window. You see the shapes, but you miss the vivid details, the subtle colors, the true essence. Expanding your lexicon does more than just help you sound smarter, it literally rewires your brain to think more critically and creatively. Studies have shown that a rich vocabulary is directly linked to improved cognitive function and academic success. But this isn't just for scholars. In daily life, from negotiating a raise to writing a heartfelt letter, the right word at the right moment can be utterly transformative. It builds confidence and commands respect. The beauty of focusing on these 1000 words is their curated power. They are not obscure, rarely used terms meant to baffle others. Instead, they are the high-frequency advanced words that form the backbone of sophisticated communication in both scholarly articles and intelligent discourse. They are the bridge between basic fluency and true mastery. For instance, knowing the difference between ambiguous and equivocal can sharpen your analytical skills, while using ephemeral instead of short-lived can add a layer of poetic depth to a simple observation. This is the practical magic we're going to explore together. Let me give you your first crucial tip right now. Don't just memorize definitions. That is a futile and frustrating exercise. The key to acquisition is context and connection. When you learn a new word, immediately place it in a context that is personally relevant to you. Create a vivid mental image or a sentence related to your own life. For example, when learning propensity, you might think, I have a propensity for drinking too much coffee while working late. This anchors the word in your memory far more effectively than rote repetition. We will delve deeper into these techniques, but this is your starting point. Your journey to eloquence begins with a single, intentional step. That initial shift in mindset, from memorization to contextualization, is the foundation. But a foundation needs a structure. So, how do we systematically build this edifice of advanced vocabulary without becoming overwhelmed? The methodology is everything. I learned this the hard way, after my seminar wake-up call. I started furiously writing down words on flashcards, cramming them into my head. The result? A jumbled mess of half-remembered terms I couldn't use correctly. I was on the verge of capitulation, ready to surrender to linguistic mediocrity. But then I discovered the power of a structured system, the very one that forms the backbone of this resource. The first pillar of this system is what I call thematic chunking. Our brains are natural pattern recognizers, they thrive on organization. Learning words in isolated lists is like trying to build a house with a pile of scattered bricks. Instead, we group related words into thematic clusters. For instance, instead of learning ubiquitous, pervasive, and omnipresent on different days, we learn them together. This allows us to understand their subtle nuances. Ubiquitous might describe the ever-present nature of smartphones in modern life, while pervasive carries a slightly more negative connotation, perfect for describing a pervasive sense of doubt. Omnipotent is absolute, often reserved for philosophical or religious contexts. By learning them together, you don't just learn 3 definitions, you acquire a sophisticated spectrum of expression for a single core idea. The second, non-negotiable pillar is spaced repetition. This isn't just a study tip, it's a scientific principle of memory consolidation. Cramming words into your short-term memory is a futile exercise, they will be forgotten within days. Spaced repetition involves reviewing information at increasing intervals over time, strategically moving knowledge from your hippocampus to your long-term neocortex. This is the hack that makes retention effortless. Technology is our greatest ally here. Utilize apps that employ this algorithm. You input the new words you're learning, and the app manages the review schedule for you, ensuring you see a word just as you're about to forget it. This method transforms the arduous task of revision into a smooth, highly efficient process. It's the difference between pushing a boulder up a hill every day and letting a pulley system do the work for you. Let's make this practical with a cluster right now. Consider the theme of criticism. You likely know criticize. Now, let's elevate that. Lambaste means to criticize harshly and publicly. Excoriate is similar but implies severe condemnation, literally to flay the skin off. Censure is a formal, often official, expression of strong disapproval. Reprove is to gently and kindly correct someone. And pan, used as a verb, means to criticize a play, movie, or other work severely. See? You now have a precise tool for every critical scenario, from formally censuring a political action to gently reproving a friend. This is the power of thematic chunking. You are not just collecting words, you are building a functional, accessible toolkit. But understanding a word's meaning and being able to use it actively are two entirely different domains. This is the great chasm in language learning, the gap between passive recognition and active recall. You can read the word superfluous and understand it perfectly, but will it come to your aid when you need to describe the unnecessary third paragraph in a report? This was my next hurdle. I had a mental catalog of impressive words, but they remained trapped, stubbornly refusing to appear in my speech or writing. The key to springing them loose was a conscious, deliberate process of integration. The transition from passive to active vocabulary is not a passive process, it requires intentional effort. The most effective strategy one discovered is called deep processing. This goes beyond simply using a word in a sentence. It involves connecting the new word to your existing knowledge on a deeper, more personal level. Let's take the word laconic, which means using very few words. A shallow processing would be, the man was laconic. A deep processing would be, I wish I could be more laconic in my emails, unlike my manager, whose messages are always tediously verbose. Do you see the difference? The second sentence creates a personal connection, an emotional contrast, and a vivid scenario. You've not only defined the word but have given it a home in your memory palace. Another powerful technique is the one-word challenge. For a single day, choose one new word from your studies and make a pledge to use it correctly at least 3 times in your daily conversations or written communication. It could be pragmatic, ambiguous, or resilient. The word itself matters less than the act of forcing it into your active lexicon. The first time might feel forced, and that's okay. The second time, you'll be more comfortable. By the third time, you are starting to own it. This practice transforms vocabulary from an abstract concept into a living, breathing part of your communicative identity. Let's apply this right now with a word that is incredibly useful in both academic and daily contexts: equivocal. It means open to more than one interpretation, ambiguous, often to mislead or avoid commitment. Your deep processing sentence could be, the politician's equivocal statement on the tax issue left both supporters and opponents frustrated. Now, for your one-word challenge today, try to use equivocal. Perhaps in a discussion about a movie's ending, or when describing a confusing instruction from a colleague. The feedback on the project was frustratingly equivocal. This active usage, no matter how small, is the spark that ignites true fluency. It's the moment a word ceases to be a guest in your mind and becomes a permanent resident. There is a certain magic that happens when a word moves from your passive understanding to your active toolbox. It's akin to a painter discovering a new, exquisite shade of blue that was always on the palette but never truly seen. Suddenly, you perceive the world with a new lens. This is the profound reward for the disciplined work we've discussed. But the journey isn't without its subtle challenges. One of the most common fears is the apprehension of sounding pretentious. This is a valid concern, and navigating it with grace is the mark of a true master of language. The key is appropriateness and authenticity. You would not use the word perfunctory to describe a child's rushed homework in a casual chat with another parent. Rushed or careless would be more natural. However, in a professional performance review, describing an employee's work as perfunctory conveys a precise and serious critique that half-hearted simply cannot match. The goal is not to replace every simple word with a complex one. The goal is to have the option to use the complex word when the situation demands precision, nuance, and impact. It's about expanding your range, not discarding your foundation. Let me illustrate with a word that perfectly embodies this principle: anachronism. It refers to something or someone that is not in its correct historical or chronological time. You could simply say out of place, but anachronism paints a complete picture. Imagine describing a knight in full armor appearing in a modern coffee shop. That is a visual, powerful anachronism. Now, you can use it in an academic paper to discuss a modern idea falsely projected onto ancient history, or in daily life to describe your friend who refuses to use a smartphone as a charming anachronism. The word fits perfectly in both contexts, elevating your communication without straining it. This brings us to another critical skill: using context clues to decipher new words in the wild. You will encounter many of these 1,000 words in the books you read, the podcasts you listen to, and the documentaries you watch. Train yourself to be a detective. Do not immediately reach for a dictionary. Pause and analyze the sentence. The surrounding words are your best allies. If someone describes a policy as draconian, and the next sentence discusses its harsh penalties and severe restrictions, you can confidently infer that draconian means excessively harsh and severe. This active engagement solidifies the word's meaning in your mind far more effectively than a passive lookup. It turns every piece of content you consume into a potential vocabulary lesson. The true power of this vocabulary journey reveals itself not in isolated moments, but in its cumulative effect on your entire communicative presence. It's the difference between having a single tool and possessing a fully stocked workshop. Suddenly, complex ideas become manageable because you have the precise language to dissect them. Arguments become more persuasive because you can articulate nuances that your opponents might overlook. This is where we move beyond individual words and start to appreciate the architecture of sophisticated expression. Let's take a concept that is both academically and personally relevant: resilience. Everyone understands the basic idea of bouncing back. But with an advanced vocabulary, you can explore its facets. You can discuss the adversity that tests one's fortitude. You can describe a person's indomitable spirit in the face of tribulation. You can argue that resilience isn't about being impervious to stress, but about possessing the tenacity to endure it. Each of these words adds a layer of depth and color. They allow you to move from a simple statement, "She is strong," to a powerful observation, "Her tenacity in the face of such profound adversity is a testament to an indomitable human spirit." The first is an observation, the second is an insight. This precision is particularly crucial in professional and academic environments. Consider the word ubiquitous. In a technology meeting, instead of saying "everyone uses smartphones now," you could state, "Smartphone technology has become ubiquitous, fundamentally altering consumer behavior." This doesn't just sound smarter, it conveys a sense of overwhelming pervasiveness that the simpler sentence lacks. It demonstrates a command of the topic. Similarly, in an essay, describing a historical period as tumultuous rather than very unstable immediately sets a more academic and analytical tone. Your reader recognizes your capacity for nuanced thought. This brings me to a vital piece of advice: read voraciously and listen critically. The final step to mastering these 1,000 words is immersing yourself in environments where they live and breathe. Do not just read for content, read for language. When you encounter a word you've recently studied, pause and appreciate its context. Listen to sophisticated podcasts or lectures and pay attention to the speaker's diction. How do they use paradigm or conjecture? This constant, low-level exposure is the final polish on your new linguistic skills. It acclimatizes your ear to the rhythm and flow of advanced English, making it feel increasingly natural to produce it yourself. The architecture of a sophisticated vocabulary is built upon understanding the subtle, often razor-thin differences between synonyms. This is where true mastery lies. It's the difference between sounding like you've memorized a list and demonstrating a genuine command of the language's depth. Let's delve into a cluster that is absolutely essential for critical thinking and articulate expression: words relating to intelligence and knowledge. You know, smart and knowledgeable. But now, consider erudite. An erudite person possesses profound, book-learned knowledge. Then there is astute, which implies sharpness and practical insight, often in specific situations. A shrewd person is astute, but with a layer of sharp, sometimes cunning, judgment, especially in business. Perspicacious is a step further, describing someone who has a keen mental perception and understanding. It's a penetrating intelligence that sees clearly to the heart of matters. Finally, sagacious offers wisdom and good judgment, often implying foresight born of experience. Understanding these nuances allows you to paint with a finer brush. You wouldn't describe a street vendor's clever business tactics as erudite, but shrewd would be perfect. You wouldn't call a brilliant philosopher shrewd, but perspicacious captures their penetrating insight. This precision is what separates competent communication from eloquent, impactful discourse. Now, let's apply this to another crucial theme: subtlety. The word subtle itself is a cornerstone of advanced vocabulary. But we can expand. Nuance refers to a subtle distinction or variation. Delicate can describe a subtle and finely tuned situation. Eloquent speech is often powerful not because it is loud, but because of its subtle and effective use of language. Implied and insinuated both deal with suggestions that are not stated directly, but insinuated often carries a negative, sly connotation. By mastering this family of words, you become equipped to discuss the most intricate aspects of human communication and interaction, the things that are not said outright but are overwhelmingly present. This is the kind of vocabulary that allows you to engage with complex texts and conversations on their own terms. The real transformation occurs when these vocabulary clusters stop being isolated study topics and start integrating into the very fabric of your thinking. This is the point where you begin to think in these more precise terms. Let's explore two powerful thematic clusters that are incredibly useful for analyzing situations, whether in a boardroom, a literary essay, or a current events discussion: words of reduction and words of destruction. First, reduction. We all know reduce. But let's add precision. Diminish means to make or become less. Abate is often used for something decreasing in intensity, like a storm abating. Wane is a beautiful word for a gradual decrease, like the moon waning or influence waning. Recede implies moving back or away, like floodwaters receding or a hairline receding. Finally, attenuate means to reduce in force, effect, or value, often in a technical or formal context. So, while a headache might abate, a signal is attenuated, and a resource is diminished. These are not interchangeable, they are specific tools for specific jobs. Now, let's consider destruction, but beyond the basic destroy. Decimate originally meant to kill 1 in 10, but now means to severely devastate or reduce drastically. Obliterate implies wiping out every trace, leaving nothing behind. Annihilate suggests complete destruction to the point of non-existence. Eradicate is to destroy completely, with a sense of pulling out by the roots, often used in the context of diseases or problems. Dismantle is to take something apart piece by piece, which can be a physical or systematic destruction. You don't annihilate an argument, you dismantle it logically. You don't dismantle a city in a war, you might obliterate it. This precision is what allows for powerful, unambiguous communication. The practical exercise for this session is to take these two clusters and write one sentence for each word, forcing yourself to create a context that highlights its unique meaning. For example, the company's profits continued to wane over several quarters. The new evidence obliterated the prosecutor's carefully constructed case. This act of creation is the final, crucial step in moving the word from a concept you understand to an asset you own. Now, let's turn our attention to a duality that governs much of our communication and comprehension, the interplay between complexity and simplicity. Having the vocabulary to describe both ends of this spectrum is incredibly powerful. It allows you to praise a brilliant explanation for its clarity, or critique a weak argument for its unnecessary obscurity. This is where we move from naming things to evaluating ideas with precision. On the complexity side, we have words like labyrinthine. This suggests a complex, maze-like structure that is difficult to navigate, such as a labyrinthine legal system. Convoluted implies twisted and complicated, often to the point of being intentionally confusing. A convoluted plot in a novel can be frustrating. Byzantine carries a historical weight, describing something highly complex and intricate, often involving elaborate scheming. Esoteric refers to knowledge that is intended for and understood by only a small group with specialized knowledge. Recondite takes this further, meaning something that is obscure and difficult for the average person to understand. Conversely, the ability to distill complexity into simplicity is a hallmark of genius. For this, we need words beyond simple. Lucid describes writing or speech that is exceptionally clear and easy to understand. Perspicuous is a more formal synonym, meaning clearly expressed and easily understood. Succinct expresses much in few words, it's brief and clear. Pellucid means translucently clear, both in a literal sense and for style or meaning. Axiomatic describes something that is self-evident or unquestionably true, representing a foundational simplicity. Your ability to use these words gives you a critical framework. You can now say, while the author's thesis is inherently complex, her explanation is remarkably lucid, avoiding convoluted jargon. Or, his esoteric references made the lecture largely inaccessible, a shame since the core concept was almost axiomatic. This is the language of effective analysis. It demonstrates that you are not just processing information, but you are also evaluating the quality and form of its presentation. This is a critical skill in any field, from reviewing a colleague's report to deconstructing a political speech. Your practical task is to identify one piece of communication you encountered today, an email, a news article, a social media post, and classify it using one word from the complexity cluster and one from the simplicity cluster. Justify your choice mentally. This daily habit sharpens your analytical skills and actively reinforces your new vocabulary. The journey we are on is one of intentional curation. It is not about hoarding words indiscriminately, but about strategically selecting those that offer the highest return on your intellectual investment. This leads me to a crucial framework for understanding the 1,000 words in this resource, thinking of them in terms of utility and frequency. Some words are workhorses, versatile powerhouses you will use weekly. Others are precision instruments, reserved for specific, impactful moments. Recognizing the spectrum is key to using your new vocabulary with confidence and not anxiety. Let me introduce the concept of vocabulary tiers. Tier 1 words are your basic, foundational vocabulary: run, house, good. Tier 2 words are high-frequency words found across a variety of domains: contradict, benevolent, hypothesis. These are the words that mature your language and are the primary focus of our endeavor. They are the bridge words. Then there are Tier 3 words, which are low-frequency, domain-specific terms like isotope in science or sonnet in poetry. While important in their fields, they are not our primary target for general academic and daily eloquence. The magic of this curated list is that it concentrates on the most potent Tier 2 words. A word like ubiquitous is a Tier 2 superstar. It appears in tech articles, sociology papers, and everyday conversations about fashion trends. It is immensely versatile. Similarly, equivocal, lucid, and astute are all Tier 2 jewels. They have a high utility frequency. On the other hand, a word like salubrious, meaning health-promoting, is more niche. It's good to know, but you won't deploy it as often. Understanding this allows you to prioritize your energy. You will spend more time deeply integrating the versatile paradigm than the more limited prolegomenon. This is why the thematic chunks are so effective. When you learn a cluster of words for criticism, you are essentially acquiring a set of Tier 2 tools for a very common human activity. You are building a functional subsystem within your language database. This systematic approach prevents the overwhelm of trying to learn 1,000 words and transforms it into the manageable task of mastering 20 to 30 powerful conceptual clusters. You are not memorizing, you are tooling up for a lifetime of clearer thinking and more powerful communication. The next time you read a complex article, you will see these Tier 2 words everywhere, and you will understand why they were chosen. They are the linchpins of sophisticated thought. The architecture of eloquent communication rests on a foundation of causality and connection. We constantly seek to explain why things happen and what consequences they produce. Yet, relying solely on because and so is like trying to build a cathedral with only a hammer and nails. It works, but it lacks grace, strength, and precision. To articulate the intricate chains of cause and effect that define our world, we need a more sophisticated toolkit. This is where a powerful cluster of verbs comes into play, each offering a distinct nuance for how one thing brings about another. Let's consider the word precipitate. It means to cause something to happen suddenly or unexpectedly. You would use it for an event that triggers a crisis. For example, the assassination of the Archduke precipitated the outbreak of World War I. It carries a sense of rapid, often unforeseen, acceleration towards a significant outcome. Compare that to engender. This verb means to bring into existence, to give rise to. It often has a slower, more organic connotation. The teacher's genuine passion for history engendered a deep love for the subject in her students. It wasn't a sudden cause, but a gradual fostering. Then we have facilitate, which means to make an action or process easier. It doesn't directly cause the outcome, but it removes obstacles. The new software facilitated a smoother workflow within the team. The software didn't create the work, but it enabled it to happen more efficiently. Induce is another key term, meaning to succeed in persuading or influencing someone to do something, or to bring about a physical state. The doctor used a specific drug to induce sleep. The scandal induced the minister to resign. It implies an external pressure or stimulus that leads to a specific response. Finally, prompt is similar to induce but often lighter and more immediate. It means to incite to action or to be the reason for something happening. His question prompted a lengthy discussion. It's the nudge that starts the process. Understanding the subtle differences between precipitating a crisis, engendering trust, facilitating a process, inducing a state, and prompting a discussion is what allows you to describe events with breathtaking accuracy. You are no longer just stating that A caused B, you are describing the very nature of the causal relationship itself. This is the hallmark of advanced, analytical thought. Your task is to take a recent event in your life or in the news and describe its causes using at least two of these verbs. For instance, the sudden market crash precipitated a wave of panic, which in turn prompted a swift government response. This practice wires these words into your active neural pathways. But a rich vocabulary is not merely for description or analysis, it is also a formidable tool of influence. The ability to persuade, to sway opinion, and to inspire action is rooted in the precise use of language. Let's explore a cluster of words dedicated to the art of influence, each capturing a different method and tone. Moving beyond simple persuasion, we enter the nuanced realms of motivation and control. Consider the word coerce. This implies persuading someone to do something by using force or threats. It is influence through intimidation. The regime coerced the population into compliance through fear. This is starkly different from cajole, which means to persuade someone to do something by sustained coaxing or flattery. I managed to cajole my friend into helping me move on a Saturday. One is heavy-handed, the other is light and playful. Then there is entreat, a more formal and earnest word meaning to ask someone earnestly or anxiously to do something. I entreated him to reconsider his decision. It carries a weight of solemn pleading. Inveigle is more cunning, it means to persuade someone to do something by means of deception or flattery. She was inveigled into investing in a fraudulent scheme. It suggests a smooth, manipulative process. Perhaps the most powerful in this set is incite. This means to encourage or stir up violent or unlawful behavior. The speaker's words were meant to incite a riot. It is about provoking action, often of extreme nature. Understanding these distinctions is critical. You would not say a peaceful protester incited a crowd if they were merely entreating for change. The wrong word completely misrepresents the event and the speaker's intent. Using these words allows you to dissect the mechanics of influence with surgical precision. In a political science essay, you can analyze whether a leader cajoled their allies or coerced them. In a business case study, you can discuss whether a manager inveigled their team into accepting a bad deal or genuinely persuaded them. This vocabulary elevates your commentary from a simple observation to a critical assessment of method and morality. It empowers you to not only be more persuasive yourself but to also be a more discerning critic of the persuasion attempts directed at you. This is the application of vocabulary as a shield as well as a sword. For deep processing, recall a recent time someone successfully persuaded you to do something. Now, analyze their method. Did they cajole, entreat, or inveigle you? Assigning the precise word to the experience solidifies your understanding of its unique meaning. In an age of overwhelming information, where misinformation can spread like wildfire, the ability to verify and validate has become a superpower. This goes far beyond simply checking facts. It involves a rigorous intellectual process, and to master that process, we need the vocabulary that defines it. Let's explore a crucial cluster of words centered on the concept of verification and proof, moving from simple agreement to unshakable certainty. The word corroborate is essential. It means to confirm or give support to a statement, theory, or finding. It implies adding new evidence to strengthen an existing claim. The new witness testimony corroborated the victim's account of the event. It's a word of reinforcement. Substantiate is similar but often carries a heavier weight. It means to provide evidence to support or prove the truth of something. You substantiate a claim by providing its foundation. The researcher was unable to substantiate her groundbreaking theory with reproducible data. Without substantiation, a claim remains hollow. Then we have ascertain, which focuses on the act of finding something out for certain. It's the process of verification. The detective sought to ascertain the exact time of death. It's a word of active investigation and discovery. Authenticate is more specific. It means to prove or show something to be genuine, true, or valid. You authenticate a painting, a signature, or a document. The expert was called in to authenticate the lost manuscript. It's the final, authoritative seal of approval. Finally, consider vindicate. This powerful word means to clear someone of blame or suspicion, or to prove that someone was right. The new evidence completely vindicated the scientist, whose theories had been mocked for decades. It carries a triumphant sense of justice and ultimate validation. Understanding this cluster transforms how you interact with information. You don't just check a fact, you seek to corroborate a story with multiple sources. You don't just believe a theory, you look for the data that substantiates it. You don't just assume something is real, you wait for an expert to authenticate it. This vocabulary equips you to navigate the modern world not as a passive consumer of information, but as an active, discerning, and rigorous investigator. It is the language of intellectual integrity. For your deep processing exercise, take a current news story and frame it using these terms. Ask yourself, what evidence would be needed to corroborate the main allegation? Has the primary source substantiated their claims? How can the public ascertain the truth? This practice turns abstract vocabulary into a concrete critical thinking tool. A sophisticated vocabulary is not merely about action, it is equally about inaction, obstruction, and the subtle forces that hinder progress. To articulate the full spectrum of human experience and the challenges within it, we must be able to precisely name the barriers we face. This brings us to a vital thematic cluster, words that define obstacles and hindrances. Understanding these nuances allows you to move beyond vague terms like problem and diagnose the specific nature of a challenge. Let us begin with impediment. This refers to a hindrance or obstruction in doing something. It often suggests a structural or ongoing issue. His stutter was a significant impediment to his dream of becoming a broadcaster. It is a thing that stands in the way. Compare that to deterrent. A deterrent is something that discourages or is intended to discourage someone from doing something. Its power is psychological. The severe punishment was meant to act as a deterrent to potential criminals. It doesn't physically block the action, but it makes the cost seem too high. Then we have hindrance, which is similar to an impediment but can often feel slightly less formal or permanent. The bad weather was a hindrance to our picnic plans. It is something that causes delay or interruption. Obstruction is a powerful word that implies something that physically blocks a pathway or process, often deliberately. The fallen tree was an obstruction on the road. The senator was accused of obstruction of justice. Finally, consider encumbrance. This is a splendid word for a burden or impediment that weighs you down. It often carries a sense of something cumbersome or financially burdensome. The massive loan was an encumbrance on the young company's growth. It is a weight that slows progress. Mastering this cluster enables you to diagnose with precision. A lack of funding is an impediment to research. The fear of failure can be a powerful deterrent. A minor paperwork error is a hindrance. A deliberate legal maneuver is an obstruction. A large, inherited debt is an encumbrance. Your ability to identify the exact type of barrier is the first step in formulating the correct strategy to overcome it. This vocabulary is not passive, it is the language of proactive problem solving. For your practical application, identify a current challenge in your personal or professional life. Now, classify it using one word from this cluster. Is it a mere hindrance, or a true encumbrance? This act of precise labeling is itself a powerful step toward finding a solution. The final, and perhaps most exhilarating, stage of this journey is when your expanding vocabulary begins to alter your perception. You start to see the world not just with greater clarity, but with a deeper appreciation for its nuances and hidden patterns. This is the reward for your diligence, a more richly textured experience of life itself. To illustrate this, let's explore a cluster of words that describe exceptional skill and ability, moving far beyond the simplistic very good. Consider the word prodigy. This refers to a person, especially a young one, endowed with exceptional qualities or abilities. It implies a natural, often innate, talent that manifests early. Mozart was a child prodigy, composing complex music at an astonishingly young age. Now, compare that to virtuoso. A virtuoso is a person highly skilled in music or another artistic pursuit, but this mastery is often the result of immense practice and dedication. It denotes technical excellence and brilliant execution. The virtuoso violinist received a standing ovation for her breathtaking performance. Then we have savant, a term for a person of extensive learning or a person with profound knowledge in a particular field. In modern usage, it often references someone with extraordinary ability in a specific area, sometimes alongside limitations in others. He was a mathematical savant, able to perform incredibly complex calculations in his head. Adept is another powerful word, describing someone who is very skilled or proficient at something. It suggests a high level of competence and dexterity. She was adept at navigating the complexities of international law. Finally, let's consider polymath. This is a person of wide-ranging knowledge or learning, a true Renaissance individual whose expertise spans a significant number of different subject areas. Leonardo da Vinci is the quintessential polymath, a master of art, science, engineering, and anatomy. Understanding these distinctions allows you to appreciate and describe human excellence with breathtaking accuracy. You can now distinguish between the innate genius of a prodigy, the practiced mastery of a virtuoso, the specialized intensity of a savant, the reliable skill of an adept, and the breathtaking breadth of a polymath. This vocabulary doesn't just add words to your lexicon, it adds new categories of understanding to your mind. It allows you to recognize and celebrate the different forms that human brilliance can take. This is the ultimate goal, to use this enhanced language not just to communicate, but to see more deeply into the world and the people around you. Your final practical task for this segment is to think of 3 people you admire, historically or in your own life. Can you classify their specific type of talent using one of these words? This act of precise appreciation is a beautiful way to solidify your learning. The pursuit of an advanced vocabulary is, at its heart, a pursuit of nuance. It is the quest to capture those fleeting, almost imperceptible shades of meaning that give depth to our experiences and our conversations. This brings us to a wonderfully subtle thematic cluster, words that describe the qualities of subtlety, refinement, and the elusive. These are the words we use to describe the things that are not loud or obvious, but are profoundly significant. Let us begin with subtlety itself. It refers to a quality of being delicate, precise, and difficult to detect or analyze. It is the opposite of blunt force. The subtlety of the chef's spicing made the dish extraordinary. It is the art of the slight, but powerful, adjustment. Closely linked is nuance. A nuance is a subtle difference in or shade of meaning, expression, or sound. While subtlety is a quality, a nuance is a specific instance of it. A skilled diplomat understands the nuances of cross-cultural communication. You appreciate the nuances that create the overall subtlety. Then we have delicacy. This word can describe something very fine or intricate in quality, requiring sensitive handling. The delicacy of the lace was astonishing. It also applies to situations requiring tactful treatment. The negotiations required a great deal of delicacy. Finesse is the impressive skill and refinement with which something is done. It implies elegance and expertise in execution. She handled the irate customer with remarkable finesse. It is subtlety in action. Finally, consider elusive. This describes something that is difficult to find, catch, or achieve. It is subtle to the point of being evasive. The concept of happiness is often elusive. The solution to the puzzle remained elusive. It captures the frustrating and fascinating nature of things that lie just beyond our grasp. Mastering this cluster allows you to articulate the intangible. You can now praise a writer for the subtlety of their character development, discuss the cultural nuances in a film, admire the delicacy of a legal negotiation, appreciate the finesse of a musician's performance, and describe the search for truth as an elusive quest. These words give you the language to discuss the space between the lines, the whispers beneath the shouts. They are the tools for describing the most refined aspects of art, personality, and thought. This is the language of a discerning mind, a mind that notices what others overlook and has the words to bring those observations to light. Your practical task is to find an example of subtlety in your environment today, a subtle change in the light, a subtle flavor in your food, a subtle expression on a friend's face. Then, describe it using one of these words. This practice trains you to not only use the vocabulary but to perceive the world it describes. We have equipped ourselves with the language of subtlety and obstruction, of influence and verification. But the world is not a static place, it is in a constant state of flux. To describe the dynamic nature of existence, the relentless tide of change that defines everything from technology to our own personal lives, we require a vocabulary that captures the myriad forms of transformation. This is not just about change, but about its quality, its pace, and its ultimate impact. Let us delve into a cluster of words centered on transformation, beginning with metamorphosis. This signifies a profound, dramatic change in form, structure, or substance, often suggesting a complete transmutation into something new. The caterpillar's transformation into a butterfly is the classic example. We can also speak of a company undergoing a metamorphosis from a traditional retailer into a digital platform. Contrast this with transmute. This verb specifically implies changing something in substance, form, or nature into a different, often higher, state. It has an alchemical quality. The artist sought to transmute his personal grief into powerful poetry. It is a change of essence. Then we have evolution. This denotes a gradual, developmental process of change, often toward a more complex or advanced state. The evolution of the smartphone over the past 2 decades has been remarkable. It is slow, iterative, and cumulative. Pivot, a more modern term, describes a fundamental change in strategy, direction, or business model. The startup had to pivot quickly when their initial product failed to gain traction. It implies a swift, strategic turn in response to new information or circumstances. Finally, consider ossify. This is the dark counterpart to transformation. It means to turn into bone or become rigidly fixed in attitude or habit, to cease developing. The organization's once flexible policies had ossified over time, stifling innovation. It is the vocabulary of stagnation. With this cluster, your analytical power grows exponentially. You can now distinguish between a company's gradual evolution, a sudden strategic pivot, a radical metamorphosis of its core identity, or a tragic descent into ossified bureaucracy. You can describe a friend's journey not just as change, but as a personal metamorphosis, or discuss how a political movement transmuted hope into action. This vocabulary allows you to map the currents of change itself, to describe not just what is different, but the very nature of the difference. For your deep processing, reflect on a significant change you have witnessed in your career, community, or personal growth. Now, classify it. Was it an evolution, a pivot, or a metamorphosis? Assigning the precise term forces you to analyze the change's depth, speed, and fundamental nature, solidifying these words as tools of understanding. The true power of a rich vocabulary becomes most evident when we move from describing the external world to navigating the intricate landscape of human judgment and perception. How we assess, evaluate, and interpret information is the bedrock of critical thinking. To do this with sophistication, we need words that go beyond good and bad, right and wrong. We need a lexicon for the art of judgment itself. Let us explore a cluster of words dedicated to sharp perception and keen judgment. The word discern is our foundation. It means to recognize or perceive something that is not immediately obvious. It implies careful observation and insight. A seasoned art collector can discern an authentic masterpiece from a clever forgery. This leads us to discriminate. In its most neutral and powerful sense, it means to recognize a distinction, to differentiate with precision. A trained palate can discriminate between the subtle flavors of single-origin chocolates. It is the act of making fine distinctions. Distinguish is similar, but often used when recognizing something as superior or unique. She distinguished herself in the field of neuroscience with her groundbreaking research. It can also mean to perceive a difference. It is difficult to distinguish the twin brothers apart. Now, consider ascertain, which we have touched upon, but fits perfectly here. It means to find something out for certain through investigation or examination. The auditor sought to ascertain the true financial state of the company. It is the active process of finding definitive proof. Finally, we have appraise. This means to assess the value, quality, or nature of something. The jeweler appraised the antique necklace at a considerable sum. It is a formal, evaluative judgment. Understanding these words allows you to articulate the very process of thinking. You are not just seeing, you are discerning patterns. You are not just telling the difference, you are discriminating between nuances. You are not just checking, you are ascertaining the facts. You are not just judging, you are appraising the value. This vocabulary reframes your thought processes from passive reception to active, critical analysis. It is the language of a mindful and deliberate intellect, one that does not merely accept the world at face value but actively engages with it, probes it, and evaluates it with precision and care. Your practical task is to engage in a simple act of daily discrimination. The next time you choose a coffee, a piece of fruit, or even a route to work, consciously articulate the criteria you are using. Are you discerning the aroma? Discriminating between levels of sweetness? Ascertaining the fastest path? This metacognition, thinking about your thinking, is the ultimate deep processing. We have navigated the realms of change in judgment, arming ourselves with words to map both external shifts and internal evaluations. But what of the inner fortitude required to navigate this constant flux? What is the vocabulary for the human spirit's capacity to endure, to persist, and to overcome? This brings us to one of the most powerful and personal thematic clusters, the language of resilience and perseverance. These words name the qualities that allow us to meet challenge not with collapse, but with strength. Let us begin with resilience itself. This is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. It is psychological and emotional toughness. The community's resilience in the aftermath of the hurricane was truly inspiring. It is the ability to spring back into shape. Now, consider fortitude. This denotes courage in pain or adversity. It is a steadfast strength of mind that allows one to endure suffering with courage. She bore the years of difficult treatment with incredible fortitude. It is a deep, enduring courage. Tenacity is another crucial word. It means the quality of being very determined. It is persistent holding on. His tenacity in pursuing his dream, despite countless rejections, finally paid off. It is the grip that does not loosen. Then we have perseverance, which is persistence in doing something despite difficulty or delay in achieving success. It is the steady, continued effort. Learning a language to fluency requires immense perseverance. It is the long, unwavering road. Finally, let's examine indomitable. This is a magnificent word meaning impossible to subdue or defeat. Her indomitable spirit lifted the morale of everyone around her. It is resilience and fortitude combined into an unconquerable force. With this cluster, you gain the language to celebrate the highest forms of human strength. You can now accurately describe the resilience of an ecosystem, the fortitude of a patient, the tenacity of an entrepreneur, the perseverance of a student, and the indomitable will of a freedom fighter. These words do more than describe, they honor. They allow you to recognize and affirm the strength in others and in yourself. They provide a framework for understanding how challenges are met and overcome, moving beyond simple labels of strong to a nuanced appreciation of the very nature of strength. For your deep processing, reflect on a time you faced a significant challenge. Which of these words most accurately captures the quality of your response? Was it primarily resilience, tenacity, or fortitude? Articulating this not only reinforces the vocabulary but also helps you construct a more powerful narrative about your own capabilities. Have you ever met someone whose presence simply lights up a room? And conversely, have you encountered someone whose negative energy seems to drain the very air from a space? Our social and professional worlds are built upon such intangible qualities of character. To navigate them effectively, we need a precise vocabulary to describe these powerful, often unspoken, human traits. This brings us to a pivotal cluster of words that define our most admirable and our most cautionary, personal qualities. Let's begin with the positive. Charisma is that compelling charm that can inspire devotion in others. A charismatic leader possesses a magnetic quality that is almost irresistible. Integrity is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. It is the bedrock of trust. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another, a crucial skill for meaningful connection. Resourcefulness is the ability to find quick and clever ways to overcome difficulties. And diligence denotes careful and persistent work or effort. Now, let's confront their shadows. The opposite of charismatic might be insipid, which means lacking flavor, vigor, or interest. An insipid personality is bland and forgettable. The antithesis of integrity is duplicity, which means deceitfulness, double-dealing. A person characterized by duplicity cannot be trusted. A lack of empathy could be described as callousness, meaning a disregard for others' feelings. The opposite of resourcefulness is ineptitude, a lack of skill or ability. And the counter to diligence is negligence, which is failure to take proper care over something. Understanding this duality is empowering. It allows you to articulate not just what you aspire to be, but also what you strive to avoid. You can praise a colleague's resourcefulness in solving a crisis or critique a company's negligence in safety procedures. You can describe a friend's genuine empathy or a politician's blatant duplicity. This vocabulary gives you the power to make nuanced character assessments and to understand the dynamics of teams and relationships with far greater clarity. It moves you from vague feelings of liking or distrust to a clear, articulate understanding of the reasons behind those feelings. Your practical task is to conduct a character analysis, not of a fictional person, but of a public figure or even a character trait in yourself. Identify one positive quality from the first list and its potential shadow from the second. For example, you might note a leader's evident charisma but also a worrying tendency toward duplicity. This exercise trains you to think critically about character, using your new vocabulary as a precise analytical tool. For too long, we have focused on the vocabulary of the tangible, of actions, objects, and clear-cut descriptions. But the most profound ideas, the ones that shape civilizations and ignite revolutions, often reside in the abstract. To engage with the grand conversations of philosophy, science, and art, we must be able to grasp and manipulate these intangible concepts. This requires a final, powerful cluster of words, the language of abstract relations and fundamental concepts. These are the words that form the architecture of complex thought itself. Let us begin with paradigm. This is a typical example or pattern of something, a model. But more powerfully, it signifies a framework of ideas, standards, and assumptions that defines a reality for a community. Einstein's theory of relativity introduced a new paradigm for understanding the universe. To shift a paradigm is to change the very lens through which we see the world. Next, consider dichotomy. This denotes a division or contrast between two things that are represented as being opposed or entirely different. The dichotomy between mind and body has been a central debate in philosophy for centuries. It is a clean, often overly simplistic, split. For a more nuanced separation, we have disparity. This means a great difference, often an unfair one. The economic disparity between the social classes was glaring. It implies an inequality where a dichotomy suggests a mere difference. Now, let's explore confluence. This beautiful word describes the process or point where two things merge or flow together. It can be literal, like rivers, or figurative. The Renaissance was a remarkable confluence of art, science, and humanism. It is the vocabulary of synthesis and connection. Finally, we have ubiquity. We've mentioned it before, but it deserves its place here as an abstract concept. It means the state of being everywhere at once. The ubiquity of digital technology has reshaped modern society. It describes a pervasive, omnipresent quality. Mastering this cluster allows you to participate in the highest levels of discourse. You can now discuss a scientific paradigm shift, analyze the false dichotomy presented in a political argument, critique the social disparity revealed in a report, praise the confluence of ideas in a collaborative project, and ponder the cultural impact of the ubiquity of social media. These words are the tools for building and deconstructing arguments about the very structures of our reality. They are not just for sounding intelligent, they are for thinking intelligently about the most complex and influential ideas that govern our lives. This is the ultimate destination of our journey, the point where vocabulary becomes the vehicle for genuine wisdom. Your final deep processing task is to take a current event or a trend in your field and analyze it using one of these abstract words. For example, is there a paradigm shifting in your industry? Is there a growing disparity that needs addressing? This final exercise solidifies your ability to wield these powerful conceptual tools. This journey we began with a moment of frustration, a feeling of intellectual clutter, is now reaching its culmination. But this is not an end. It is a beginning. You have not simply memorized a list, you have assembled a toolkit, a lens, and a new voice. Those 1,000 words were never just 1,000 individual entities, they were 1,000 seeds. You have planted them, nurtured them with context, and connected them into a thriving ecosystem within your mind. Your vocabulary is no longer a list you recall, it is a landscape you inhabit. Remember, the initial goal was never to use the most obscure word in the room. It was always about precision. It was about having the right tool for the right job. The word laconic when brevity is powerful. The word nuance when a situation demands delicate understanding. The word indomitable when you witness a spirit that cannot be broken. This precision is a form of respect for your own thoughts, for your audience, and for the subtle, complex reality we all share. You are now equipped to describe that reality with an accuracy that is both a personal achievement and a gift to those you communicate with. So, what happens now? Now, you live in this new language. You will read and you will hear these words everywhere, like noticing a model of car you just bought. They were always there, but now you truly see them. More importantly, you will speak and write with a newfound confidence. The hesitation will be replaced by a moment of swift, internal selection as your mind effortlessly retrieves the perfect word from your expanded lexicon. The fear of being misunderstood will wane, because you possess the language to make yourself understood with stunning clarity. This is the quiet, profound power you have earned. Keep this book close, not as a crutch, but as a companion on a journey that never truly ends. There will always be another word, another shade of meaning, another way to see the world more clearly. Your commitment to this path is a commitment to a lifetime of richer understanding, more powerful expression, and deeper connection. The final word is yours to write, to speak, and to live. Have you ever stood in a supermarket, staring at a product, your mind completely blank because you can't remember the word for milk? Or maybe you've been in a cafe, desperately pointing at a picture because the simple phrase, "I would like a coffee," feels like an impossible mountain to climb? I have. I remember the heat rising to my cheeks, the feeling of frustration so sharp it was like a physical pain. I felt stuck, silenced by my own limited vocabulary. That was before I discovered a simple, powerful truth: you don't need to know thousands of words to start truly living in English. You just need the right 300. Welcome to Beginners, Learn English Vocabulary for Beginners, 300 Words for Daily Life. My name is Alex, and I'll be your guide on this journey. This isn't just another language course, this is a key. A key to unlocking conversations, to building confidence, and to finally breaking down that wall between you and the English-speaking world. I used to think learning vocabulary was about memorizing long, boring lists. I'd spend hours on words I never heard anyone use. It was overwhelming and, frankly, pointless. The breakthrough came when I started focusing only on what I needed for my daily life. The words for food, for family, for getting around the city, for expressing simple needs and feelings. These are the building blocks, the essential tools. And the most incredible part? Once you have these 300 words firmly in your grasp, learning your next 300, and the 300 after that, becomes infinitely easier. You have a foundation to build on. So, how are we going to learn these 300 essential words? We're not just going to stare at a list. We're going to bring them to life. We will group them into themes that you encounter every single day. We'll learn them through short, memorable stories and practical examples. I'll share techniques that helped me move words from my shaky short-term memory into my permanent, ready-to-use vocabulary. We will focus on pronunciation from the very beginning, so you feel comfortable saying these words out loud. Think of this as your personal toolkit. Each word we add is another tool. A screwdriver, a hammer, a wrench. Alone, they are useful. But together, they allow you to build something real. Our goal is not perfection. Our goal is progress. Our goal is communication. It's about being understood, not about speaking like a university professor from day one. Are you ready to trade that feeling of frustration for a feeling of empowerment? Are you ready to walk into that cafe and order your coffee with a smile? Then let's begin. Let's open this toolbox and look at our very first, and most crucial, set of words. Imagine having a secret key that unlocks every conversation. That key is made up of a handful of small, powerful words that native speakers use dozens of times every day without even thinking. We're going to start with that key. The first set of words in our 300-word toolkit isn't about complex ideas, it's about you. It's about establishing who you are and what you're doing. These are the words that form the skeleton of every sentence, the anchors of meaning. We begin with personal pronouns and the verb to be. Why start here? Because without I, you, he, she, it, we, and they, you can't point to anyone or anything. Without am, is, and are, you can't describe anything. Think of it like this: if words were bricks, these pronouns and the verb to be are the foundation upon which every house is built. Without a solid foundation, the walls can't go up. Let's meet them. Repeat after me, even if it's just in your mind for now. I, you, he, she, it, we, they. Now, the verb to be in the present tense: I am, you are, he is, she is, it is, we are, they are. These might seem too simple, but their power is immense. Let me tell you a short story from when I was learning. I was in a park, and a man asked me, "Are you new here?" My textbook memory kicked in, and I wanted to say, "Yes, I am new." But all I could muster was a nervous yes. I missed the chance to practice a full, confident sentence. That day, I realized that mastering these simple combinations is the first step to fluency. So, how do we learn these? Don't just memorize them in a list. Use them. Right now. Point to yourself and say, I am Alex. Point to an object, like a book, and say, it is a book. Look out a window and say, it is sunny. This is called situational learning. You attach the word to a real-life context, which makes it stick. Another fantastic tip is to create mini dialogues with yourself. For example, I am a student. You are a teacher. He is my friend. This feels silly at first, but it wires your brain to use these words naturally. Remember, pronunciation is key. The word "the" is often pronounced like the before consonants and the before vowels, but for now, focus on the clear sound. Listen to native speakers, perhaps in a movie or song, and notice how they link these small words together. For instance, I am often sounds like I'm in casual speech. We'll dive deeper into contractions later, but it's good to be aware. These 15 to 20 words, the pronouns and forms of to be, are your first victory. Practice them until they roll off your tongue without a second thought. They are your entry ticket to forming real sentences. In our next part, we'll add the verbs that bring action to your sentences, words like have, go, like, and need. These will allow you to express your wants and needs, transforming you from a silent observer into an active participant in the English-speaking world. Get ready to take that step. Now that you have your foundation solid with pronouns and the verb to be, it's time to inject life and action into your sentences. Think of those words as the stage, now we're bringing on the actors. These actors are action verbs, and they are the driving force behind everything you do, want, and need in daily life. I remember when I first learned the verb have. It was a revelation. Suddenly, I could say I have a pen instead of just pointing silently. I could express possession, which is a fundamental human concept. This is where your vocabulary starts to feel truly useful. We're going to focus on a core group of high-frequency action verbs. These are the workhorses of the English language. Words like have, go, like, need, want, see, eat, drink, speak, and live. These verbs are so common that you'll use them in countless situations every day. Let's break down why they're so powerful. The verb go allows you to talk about movement. I go to work, we go to the store. Like and want let you express your preferences and desires. I like coffee, I want water. Need communicates necessity. I need help. These are the building blocks of basic communication. Learning these verbs effectively isn't about memorizing their definitions alone. It's about pairing them with the pronouns you already know and the nouns we'll learn soon. For example, practice saying, I have a book. You have a phone. He has a car. Notice that with he, she, or it, the verb have changes to has. This is a key grammar point, but don't let it intimidate you. See it as a pattern. The more you use it, the more natural it becomes. Here's a tip that transformed my learning: create a verb of the day routine. Each morning, choose one verb, like eat. Throughout the day, mentally form sentences about what you and others are eating. I eat breakfast. You eat lunch. She eats an apple. This constant, low-pressure practice integrates the verb into your active vocabulary. Another powerful method is to use these verbs to describe your daily routine. When you wake up, think, I go to the bathroom. I need coffee. I want toast. This links language directly to your life, making it unforgettable. Pronunciation is crucial. For instance, thy like is a long sound, like I, while thy live is short, like IH. Listen carefully to native speakers. A great resource is to watch short clips from English-speaking TV shows and focus on how these common verbs are used in natural sentences. You'll hear contractions like I for I have or I'll for I will, but for now, mastering the full forms is perfect. These action verbs are your toolkit for expressing motion, desire, and necessity. They turn static sentences like I am a student into dynamic statements like I go to school and I need a pencil. With these, you can start to narrate your world. In our next session, we'll add the colors and textures to your sentences by introducing essential adjectives and common nouns, the words that name the people, places, and things you interact with daily. This will allow you to build rich, descriptive sentences that truly reflect your experiences. Have you ever tried to describe a beautiful sunset but could only say, "It is nice"? Or wanted to tell a friend about a delicious meal but were stuck with "it is good"? I have, and I remember feeling like my words were painting in black and white when I wanted to use full color. That all changes when you unlock the power of adjectives and nouns. These are the words that add detail, specificity, and life to your sentences. If verbs are the actors, then nouns are the objects on stage, and adjectives are the costumes and scenery that make everything vivid. Today, we're going to explore essential adjectives and common nouns, the dynamic duo that will transform your English from basic to descriptive. Let's start with adjectives. Adjectives are words that describe nouns. They tell us about size, color, shape, feeling, and quality. Some of the most useful adjectives for daily life are big, small, good, bad, hot, cold, new, old, happy, sad, fast, slow. Think about how often you use these concepts. With just these few, you can upgrade your sentences dramatically. Instead of I have a car, you can say I have a new car or I have a big car. Instead of the coffee is good, you can say the coffee is hot and good. See the difference? It's like upgrading from a sketch to a detailed painting. Now, on to nouns. Nouns are the names of people, places, things, and ideas. We'll focus on high-frequency nouns that you encounter daily. For people, man, woman, boy, girl, friend, family, mother, father, brother, sister. For places, home, school, work, store, park, city. For things, food, water, money, time, day, phone, book, car. These nouns are the bedrock of conversation. When you combine them with your pronouns, verbs, and adjectives, you can construct meaningful sentences about your life. For example, my mother has a new phone. The big store is good. I like hot coffee. Learning these effectively requires a thematic approach. Don't try to memorize big in isolation. Instead, group nouns and adjectives together by context. For instance, create a food theme: apple, noun, big apple, red apple, coffee, hot coffee, good coffee. This way, you're building associated clusters in your mind, which is how native speakers store vocabulary. Another powerful technique is to label your environment. Take sticky notes and write the English words for objects in your home, door, window, table, chair, and add adjectives like big window or small chair. This constant visual reinforcement accelerates learning. Pronunciation tip: pay attention to syllable stress. For example, happy has stress on the first syllable, happy. Computer has stress on the second syllable. Computer. Listening to audio examples can help you get this right. Also, practice using adjectives after is or are to describe nouns, as in the day is happy, but remember that adjectives don't change form in English like they do in some languages. Big stays big whether you're talking about one thing or many, a relief for learners. With these tools, you're now equipped to create sentences that are rich and informative. You can express not just actions but qualities and identities. In our next part, we'll dive into a crucial aspect of daily communication, asking questions. Learning question words like who, what, where, when, why, and how will empower you to engage in conversations, seek information, and connect with others on a deeper level. Get ready to become an active participant, not just a speaker. Have you ever been in a situation where you needed to find a bathroom, but all you could do was gesture helplessly because you didn't know how to ask? Or perhaps you wanted to know what time a store closed, but the words "when does it close" felt like a tangled knot in your mind. I've been there, standing on a street corner, feeling the anxiety rise because I lacked the simple tools to ask for basic information. That feeling of helplessness vanishes the moment you master the art of asking questions. Questions are the bridge that connects you to the world around you. They transform you from a passive observer into an active, engaged participant. Today, we're going to unlock that power by learning the essential question words: who, what, where, when, why, and how. These 6 words are your keys to unlocking endless conversations. Think of them as your personal detectives, each one designed to gather a specific type of information. Who is for people. What is for things or actions? Where is for places? When is for time? Why is for reasons? And how is for manner or method? When you combine these with the vocabulary we've already learned, you can construct questions that are clear, direct, and incredibly useful. For example, take the simple sentence, "The store is open." By adding a question word, you can ask, "When is the store open?" or "Where is the store?" This shift from statement to question is fundamental to interaction. Let's practice forming questions with each word. Start with what. What is your name? This is often the first question we learn, and for good reason. What time is it? What do you like? Notice how it can stand alone or be part of a phrase like "what time." Next, where. Where is the bathroom? A question of immense practical importance. Where do you live? Where are my keys? Now, when. When does the movie start? When is your birthday? When are you happy? Why seeks reason. Why are you late? Why is the sky blue? How is versatile. How are you? How much does it cost? How old are you? The grammar structure for questions often involves inverting the word order or using auxiliary verbs like do or does. For instance, for a statement like "you like coffee," the question becomes "Do you like coffee?" Here, do helps form the question. With the verb to be, it's simpler. You are happy becomes "Are you happy?" Don't let this worry you. The key is to listen to the pattern and practice it. A great way to learn is to take a simple statement and turn it into a question for each word. For example, she goes to the store. Who goes to the store? What does she do? Where does she go? When does she go? Why does she go? How does she go? My best tip for mastering questions is to create a daily questioning habit. As you go about your day, mentally ask questions in English about everything you see. What is that building? Where is that bus going? When will I arrive? Why is that person running? How does this machine work? This constant internal dialogue trains your brain to think in questions. Another effective method is to practice with a partner or even by yourself. Record yourself asking questions and then answering them. This builds fluency and confidence. Pronunciation is important for being understood. Question words often have a rising intonation at the end of the sentence. Listen to how native speakers ask questions, the melody of their voice goes up. For example, in Where Are You?, the pitch rises on you. Practice this musicality. Also, note that who sounds like who, and why rhymes with sky. Clear pronunciation ensures your questions are heard correctly. With these question words, you are no longer limited to just making statements. You can seek information, show interest in others, and navigate daily life with ease. In our next session, we'll put all these pieces together by exploring common phrases and situations you'll encounter every day, like greetings, introductions, and shopping. This will help you move from isolated words to fluid, practical conversations. Think about the first time you successfully ordered a meal in English, or the moment you greeted someone and they understood you perfectly. That feeling of connection is what we're working towards. Now that you have a toolbox filled with essential words, it's time to assemble them into practical phrases that you can use in everyday situations. Learning individual words is like having bricks, learning phrases is like building a house where you can actually live. Today, we're going to focus on common phrases for greetings, introductions, and basic interactions like shopping. These are the scripts of daily life, and mastering them will boost your confidence immensely. I recall my first attempt at a conversation in a coffee shop. I knew the words coffee and please, but I stumbled because I didn't know the natural way to string them together. I said, "I want coffee," which felt blunt. Then I learned the phrase, "Could I have a coffee, please?" and everything changed. The barista smiled warmly. That's the power of phrases, they carry not just meaning, but politeness and cultural nuance. Let's start with greetings. The simplest ones are hello, hi, and good morning/afternoon/evening. But greetings often include follow-up questions like how are you? The most common responses are I'm fine, thank you. And you, or I'm good, how about you? Practice these like a rhythm. Hello, how are you? I'm well, thanks. This exchange is the heartbeat of social interaction. Introductions are next. My name is Alex. What's your name? Or more casually, I'm Alex. Then, you might add, nice to meet you. To ask where someone is from, say where are you from, and respond with I'm from your country/city. These phrases are your passport to starting conversations. Now, imagine you're in a store. You need to find something. Instead of pointing, you can ask, "Excuse me, where is the milk?" or "How much does this cost?" Key phrases here include I'm looking for, do you have, and I'll take this, please. Remember to always use please and thank you. They are magic words that make interactions smoother. How should you learn these phrases? Don't just memorize them from a list. Practice them in context. Role-play scenarios with a friend or even by yourself. Stand in front of a mirror and greet yourself. Pretend you're in a shop and ask for an item. Another effective method is to listen to dialogues in movies or podcasts focused on beginners. Repeat the phrases out loud, copying the intonation. English has a musicality. For example, "How are you?" usually has a rising tone on you. Pay attention to that. Also, chunk learning is your best friend. Group phrases by situation. For example, create a coffee shop list. Good morning, I'd like a coffee with milk and sugar, please. How much is it? Thank you, have a nice day. By learning these chunks, you're preparing for a real-life event. This reduces anxiety because you have a ready-made script. I also recommend using flashcards with the phrase on one side and the situation on the other. Review them daily until they feel automatic. Pronunciation tip: in connected speech, words often blend together. For example, "How are you?" might sound like "How are you?" and "I am" becomes "I'm." Don't worry about speaking too fast initially, focus on being clear and using the correct phrases. Practice linking words smoothly. With these phrases, you're not just learning English, you're learning how to navigate social situations. You're building bridges to other people. In the next part, we'll dive into another critical area: numbers, time, and dates. This will allow you to talk about schedules, make appointments, and understand prices, essential skills for managing your daily life. Get ready to add precision to your conversations. Have you ever tried to tell someone your phone number in English, but your mind went blank after 5? Or perhaps you were in a taxi, trying to say an address, and the driver looked confused because you said 30 but it sounded like 13? I've been there. I once spent 10 minutes trying to buy a bus ticket because I couldn't confidently say 2:45 for the time. Mastering numbers, time, and dates might seem tedious, but it is absolutely essential for navigating daily life. These are the details that make your communication precise and reliable. Without them, you risk missing appointments, misunderstanding prices, or even getting lost. Today, we're going to conquer this foundational layer of English, turning confusion into clarity. Let's start with numbers. Begin by mastering numbers 1 through 20 thoroughly. These are the building blocks for all larger numbers. Pay close attention to the teens, 13 to 19, as they often confuse beginners. 13 and 30 sound similar, but the stress is different, 13 versus 30. Practice saying them slowly: 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Then, move on to the tens: 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Once you have these, forming numbers like 25 is easy: 25. Practice counting aloud every day. Count steps as you walk, count items in your kitchen, or count seconds. This repetitive practice builds muscle memory for your tongue and brain. Next, telling time. In English, there are common ways to express time. For example, 3 o'clock can be 3 o'clock, 3:15 can be 3:15 or 3:15, and 3:45 can be 3:45 or 3:45. Start with the simplest method, saying the hour and then the minutes, like 4:24, 4:20. Use AM for morning times and PM for afternoon and evening. To ask for the time, say "What time is it?" or "Do you have the time?" Practice by looking at a clock and stating the time in English throughout the day. Now, dates. Dates are usually written and said in the order of month, day, and year in American English. For example, July 4th, 2024 is said as July 4th, 2024. The days of the week and months of the year are crucial. Make sure you know them cold, Monday, Tuesday, etc., and January, February, etc. To say a date, use ordinal numbers, first, second, third, fourth, and so on. Note that we say July the 4th or the 4th of July, both are correct, but the first is more common in the US. Practice by saying today's date every morning. Today is Tuesday, July 2nd, 2024. Learning these elements requires active use. Don't just recite numbers, apply them. When you see prices, say them in English. This costs $10.50. When scheduling, say your appointments aloud. My meeting is at 3 p.m. on Wednesday. Use your phone settings to change the language to English, so you see dates and times in English daily. This immersion technique is incredibly effective. Pronunciation tips: numbers like 30, 40, 50 have a clear T sound at the end, unlike 13, 14, 15 which end with teen. For dates, practice the TH sound in fourth and fifth. Listen to native speakers say phone numbers. They often pause between groups, like 555, 1234. Mimic this rhythm. With numbers, time, and dates under your belt, you can make appointments, discuss prices, understand schedules, and talk about past and future events. You're adding precision to your conversations. In our next session, we'll explore vocabulary related to family and the home. This will allow you to describe your life, your relationships, and your living environment, making your English more personal and meaningful. Get ready to share your story. Is there anything more personal than talking about the people you love or the place you call home? I remember trying to describe my family to a new colleague. I wanted to say my sister was kind and funny, and that we lived in a small apartment with a big kitchen where we loved to cook. Instead, I could only point to a photo and say, my sister. My home. It felt inadequate. Our families and our homes are central to our lives, and being able to talk about them in English allows you to share who you are. This section is about making your English personal. We will learn the vocabulary for family members and the different parts of a home. These words will help you build connections and tell your unique story. Let's start with the family. The immediate family is the best place to begin. We have mother, father, parents, sister, brother, son, daughter, children, wife, and husband. Then, we extend to the wider family: grandmother, grandfather, grandparents, grandson, granddaughter, grandchildren, aunt, uncle, cousin. Notice the pattern? Grand for a generation above, and in-law for relations by marriage, like mother-in-law. Practice these words by thinking about your own family. Say aloud, I have one sister. Her name is Maria. I have two grandparents. This personal connection makes the words stick. Now, let's walk through the home. Think of the different rooms: kitchen, bathroom, living room, bedroom, dining room. Then, the furniture and objects within them. In the kitchen, refrigerator, stove, sink, table, chair. In the living room, sofa, television, lamp. In the bedroom, bed, closet, window. In the bathroom, toilet, shower, mirror. These are the nouns that define your daily environment. Pair them with adjectives you already know. You can now say, I have a small kitchen, or the living room has a big, comfortable sofa. The best way to learn this vocabulary is to create a mental map of your own home. Walk from room to room and name everything you see. This is my bedroom. That is my bed. This is a window. You can even take a notebook and draw a simple floor plan, labeling each room and the key items in it. This spatial memory technique is powerful. Another great exercise is to describe your family and home to yourself each day. My mother's name is Anna. She is kind. Our house has 3 bedrooms. The kitchen is new. Pronunciation is key for being understood. Pay attention to the stress in words like family, family, and bathroom, bathroom. The word children can be tricky. It's a 2-syllable word, children. Also, practice the th sound in mother, father, and brother. Listen to how native speakers say these words in movies or songs about family. Remember, the goal is communication, not perfection. It's better to say I live with my mother and father than to not say anything at all. With these words, you can answer questions like who do you live with and what is your home like? You are building a foundation for sharing your life. In our next part, we will venture outside the home to learn essential vocabulary for food, drinks, and eating out. This will equip you for one of life's greatest pleasures, enjoying a meal and a conversation. Get ready to talk about taste. What is the universal language that brings people together, no matter where they are from? It's the language of food. I'll never forget the first time I walked into a bustling bakery in London, surrounded by pastries I couldn't name and a menu that might as well have been in ancient Greek. The aroma was incredible, but my anxiety was higher. I wanted to ask what was in a sandwich, or if a cake was sweet or savory, but I was mute. That day, I decided to conquer the vocabulary of food and dining. Knowing these words does more than just fill your stomach, it fills your conversations with flavor and joy. Today, we're going to learn the essential words for food, drinks, and how to navigate eating out. This is where your English becomes truly practical and delicious. Let's start with the basics. Food categories are a great way to organize your learning. Think of fruits: apple, banana, orange, grape. Vegetables: carrot, tomato, potato, onion. Meats: chicken, beef, fish, pork. Dairy, milk, cheese, butter, eggs. Staples: bread, rice, pasta, soup. And of course, drinks: water, coffee, tea, juice, wine, beer. These are the building blocks of meals. Don't try to learn every fruit at once, start with the ones you eat most often. Pair them with adjectives: a red apple, a hot coffee, fresh bread, cold water. This helps you describe what you like. Now, imagine you're in a restaurant. What phrases do you need? When you arrive, the host might say, "Table for 1," or "How many people?" You can respond with, "A table for 2, please." When the server comes, they might ask, "Are you ready to order?" You can say, "I'd like the chicken, please," or "What do you recommend?" If you have dietary needs, "Does this have meat?" or "I'm allergic to nuts." During the meal, you might need to ask for something: "Can I have more water?" or "The bill, please." Remember, please and thank you are your best friends here. Learning this vocabulary is best done through immersion. Label the food in your kitchen. When you eat an apple, say apple out loud. Create a weekly menu in English: Monday, pasta with tomato sauce. Tuesday, chicken and rice. Practice role-playing a restaurant scene at home. Be both the customer and the server. This active practice makes the words come alive when you need them. Another tip is to watch cooking shows in English. You'll hear the names of ingredients and cooking verbs like cut, mix, fry, and bake, which are great to know. Pronunciation is crucial for being understood. Pay attention to word stress. For example, vegetable has 3 syllables, vegetable. Sandwich is often pronounced sandwich, not sandwich. The th in thank you is important. Also, listen for linking in phrases like cup_of tea or glass_of water. Don't worry about a perfect accent, focus on clarity. With these words and phrases, you can walk into any cafe or restaurant with confidence. You can talk about your favorite meals, understand a menu, and enjoy a conversation over food. In our next part, we'll step outside and tackle the vocabulary for getting around the city. We'll learn about transportation, directions, and places in the community. This will empower you to explore, travel, and navigate your environment like a local. Get ready to move! Have you ever stepped out of a train station in a new city, clutching a map that might as well be an abstract painting, with every street sign looking like a cryptic puzzle? I have. I remember the sinking feeling of being utterly lost, wanting to ask for directions but only knowing how to say where and bus. The words for left, right, or straight ahead escaped me. That feeling of vulnerability is something I never want you to experience. Mastering the vocabulary for getting around your city is like gaining a superpower. It transforms you from a confused tourist into a confident explorer. Today, we're going to learn the essential words for transportation, directions, and places in the community. This knowledge will give you the freedom to navigate any English-speaking environment with ease. Let's start with transportation. These are the vehicles that move you from point A to point B. The most common ones are car, bus, train, subway, taxi, bicycle, and airplane. But it's not just about the vehicle, it's about the associated words. You need to know where to find them: bus stop, train station, airport, taxi stand. And you need to know the actions: to drive, to take a bus, to ride a bike, to walk. Practice these by describing your daily commute. For example, I take the bus to work. I get off at the 3rd stop. I walk to the train station. This connects the vocabulary to your routine. Next, directions are crucial. The basic directional words are left, right, straight, up, down. Then, we have phrases like turn left, turn right, go straight, it's on your left, it's across from the park. To ask for directions, you can say, "Excuse me, how do I get to the library?" or "Where is the nearest bank?" To understand the response, listen for key prepositions: next to, between, behind, in front of, opposite. For example, the bank is next to the post office. A great way to practice is to use a map of your own city. Give yourself directions from your home to a familiar place, using only English. Now, let's talk about places in the community. These are the locations you need to know for daily life: store, supermarket, bank, post office, hospital, pharmacy, school, park, restaurant, cafe, library, hotel. Knowing these nouns allows you to find essential services and talk about your whereabouts. You can say, "I need to go to the bank to get money," or "Let's meet at the park near the library." Combine these with direction words: the pharmacy is between the bank and the supermarket, on the right. Learning this vocabulary effectively requires active engagement. Use Google Maps in English. As you navigate, the app will use English words for streets and places, providing passive learning. Another powerful method is to play a direction game with a friend. One person gives directions to a hidden object in the room using only English, and the other person follows. This makes learning fun and memorable. Also, when you're out and about, mentally note the names of places you see and say them in English. Pronunciation tips: pay attention to the stress in words like hotel, hotel, and hospital, hospital. The word direction has stress on the second syllable, direction. Practice the R sound in right and the L sound in left clearly, as they are critical for directions. Listen to how native speakers give directions. They often use short, clipped phrases like take a left, rather than full sentences. With these words, you can ask for help, understand instructions, and explore your surroundings independently. You're no longer confined to the places you already know. In our next session, we'll dive into the vocabulary for work and jobs. This will help you talk about your profession, describe what you do, and understand common workplace terms. Whether you're looking for a job or just making conversation, this will be a valuable step forward. Get ready to talk about your career. What does your typical day look like? For many of us, a huge part of our lives is spent at work. But what happens when you need to describe your job in English, and the only word you can think of is work? I remember being at an international conference, surrounded by people from all over the world. When someone asked me, "So, what do you do?" I froze. I wanted to say I was a graphic designer who collaborated with a team on creative projects. Instead, I just smiled and said, "I work on computer." It was vague and didn't capture my passion at all. That moment made me realize how crucial work vocabulary is. It's not just about stating your job title, it's about sharing a part of your identity. Today, we're going to learn the essential words for jobs, professions, and the workplace. This will empower you to talk about your career with confidence and clarity. Let's start with common job titles. These are the nouns that define what people do. Some examples include teacher, student, doctor, nurse, engineer, manager, secretary, driver, chef, waiter, artist, and writer. But don't stop at the title. Think about the sector or industry: business, education, healthcare, technology, hospitality. You can say, "I work in education," or "I have a job in technology." Next, we need verbs associated with work: to earn, to hire, to fire, to quit, to manage, to lead, to create. For example, I work for a large company, or she manages a team of 5 people. Now, let's talk about the workplace itself. You need to know the places: office, factory, school, hospital, store, restaurant. And the objects within them: desk, computer, phone, meeting, project, deadline, salary, schedule. These words help you describe your daily environment. For instance, I have a meeting at 10 a.m., or my desk is near the window. To make it more personal, combine these with what you've already learned. I am a manager. I work in a big office. I have a busy schedule. Asking and answering questions about work is key to conversation. Common questions are, "What do you do?" which means "What is your job?" "Where do you work?" "Do you like your job?" Practice answering these. I am a teacher. I work at a high school. I like my job because it is rewarding. If you are looking for a job, you might say, "I am looking for a job in marketing," or "I need to write my resume." Learning this vocabulary requires context. A great way is to create a simple career story about yourself or someone you know. Write a few sentences. My name is Anna. I am a nurse. I work in a hospital. I help doctors and patients. My job is difficult but important. Repeat this story daily, changing details to practice different words. Another tip is to read job descriptions online in English. They are full of relevant vocabulary like requirements, responsibilities, and benefits. This is practical exposure. Pronunciation is important for professionalism. Pay attention to word stress. For example, engineer has stress on the last syllable, nginer. Secretary is pronounced secretary with 4 syllables. Practice the R sound in work and the J sound in job. Also, note that schedule can be pronounced schedule in American English or schedule in British English. Choose one and be consistent. With these words, you can network, discuss your career, and understand workplace conversations. You're building a vocabulary that opens doors to professional opportunities. In our next part, we'll explore a fun and essential topic, hobbies and free time. This will help you talk about your interests, what you enjoy doing when you're not working, and connect with others on a personal level. Get ready to share your passions. What do you love to do when you have a free afternoon? Do you lose yourself in a book, go for a run in the park, or maybe cook a new recipe? I'll never forget the first time a colleague asked me, "So, what do you do for fun?" My mind raced through all my hobbies, but the only words that came out were, "I like movies." It was true, but it felt so flat. I wanted to explain how I loved hiking on weekends, the feeling of reaching a mountain peak, and the peace of being in nature. But I didn't have the words. Talking about hobbies and free time is about more than just passing the time. It's about sharing your passions, connecting with people on a personal level, and showing who you are beyond your job. Today, we're going to learn the vocabulary to do just that. We'll cover common hobbies, activities, and how to talk about what you enjoy in your spare time. Let's start with some popular hobbies. Think about activities you do for enjoyment. Some common ones include reading, writing, listening to music, watching movies, playing sports, cooking, painting, dancing, photography, and traveling. But we need more than just the noun, we need verbs to go with them. For example, you don't just sports, you play sports, like play soccer, play tennis, play basketball. You go swimming, go hiking, go shopping. You listen to music, watch TV, read a book. Pairing the correct verb with the activity is key to sounding natural. Now, how do you talk about these hobbies? You can use the simple phrase "I like" or "I enjoy," followed by the activity. I like reading. I enjoy cooking. To be more specific, you can say, "I like to read mystery novels," or "I enjoy cooking Italian food." To ask someone about their hobbies, you can say, "What do you like to do in your free time?" or "What are your hobbies?" Common responses might be, "I'm interested in photography," or "I love playing the guitar." Notice the use of love for stronger feelings. Learning this vocabulary is best done by associating it with your own life. Make a list of your top 3 hobbies in English. Then, write a few sentences about each. For example, my hobby is photography. I take pictures of nature. I have a good camera. Practice saying these sentences aloud. Another great tip is to join online forums or social media groups about your hobbies in English. You'll see how people talk about them naturally, and you can learn common phrases. Also, Try keeping a simple journal in English where you write one sentence about what you did for fun each day. Today, I watched a movie with friends. This habit builds vocabulary consistently. Pronunciation tips: pay attention to the stress in words like photography, photography, and hobby, hob. The word interesting has stress on the first syllable, ing. When saying I like to, the words often blend together, I like ta. Practice the th sound in with and their sound in run or read. Listen to how native speakers talk about their hobbies in interviews or vlogs. You'll pick up on the intonation and enthusiasm they use. With these words, you can turn a simple conversation into a meaningful exchange. You can discover common interests and make new friends. Talking about hobbies makes your English more personal and vibrant. In our next part, we'll dive into an equally important topic: health and the human body. This will help you describe how you feel, talk about common illnesses, and communicate effectively with a doctor if needed. It's vocabulary that empowers you to take care of yourself and others. Get ready to talk about well-being. How well can you describe a simple headache to a doctor? Or explain that you've twisted your ankle and need help? I remember a time when I was traveling and ate something that didn't agree with me. I stood in a pharmacy, clutching my stomach, trying to remember the word for pain. All I could say was I am not good, which did nothing to convey the sharp cramps I was feeling. That helplessness, when your body is sending signals but your vocabulary fails you, is a fear I never want you to face. Being able to talk about your health and your body is not just about convenience, it's about safety and well-being. Today, we're going to learn the essential vocabulary for the human body and common health issues. This knowledge will empower you to describe how you feel, understand basic medical advice, and take care of yourself and others in an English-speaking environment. Let's start with the human body. We'll begin with the major parts that you use every day. From the top down: head, hair, face, eyes, ears, nose, mouth, teeth, neck, shoulders, arms, hands, fingers, chest, stomach, back, legs, knees, feet, and toes. It's a lot, but don't be overwhelmed. Group them into sections. For example, the face, eyes, ears, nose, mouth. The limbs, arms, hands, fingers, legs, feet, toes. Practice by pointing to each part on your own body and saying the word out loud. This is my nose. These are my eyes. This physical association is a powerful memory tool. Next, we need words to describe how we feel. The most basic question is, how are you feeling, or are you okay? To answer, we use adjectives like well, fine, sick, ill, tired, hungry, thirsty, hot, cold. But when something is wrong, we need to be more specific. We use verbs like hurt, ache, feel. For example, my head hurts, or I have a stomach ache, or I feel dizzy. Common ailments include a headache, a fever, a cough, a sore throat, a cold, the flu, a pain in my back. Learn these phrases as chunks. Instead of just pain, learn I have a pain in my. To talk about health, we also need verbs for actions: to see a doctor, to go to the hospital, to take medicine, to rest, to drink water. For example, I need to see a doctor, or you should rest. If you're in a pharmacy, you might ask, do you have medicine for a headache, or I need something for a cough? Remember, in emergencies, key phrases are help and call an ambulance. Learning this vocabulary requires a practical approach. Use a diagram of the human body labeled in English. Study it for a few minutes each day. Another effective method is to describe your daily health routine in English. I wake up. I brush my teeth. I wash my face. When you feel unwell, even if it's minor, practice describing it to yourself in English. I am tired today. My eyes are sore from reading. This prepares you for real situations. Role-playing a doctor-patient conversation with a friend is also incredibly helpful. Pronunciation is critical for being understood, especially in health contexts. Pay attention to the difference between similar-sounding words like ache, which rhymes with cake, and earache or headache. The th sound in thirsty and teeth is important. Practice the I in sick versus the e in teeth. Also, word stress matters. For example, hospital is stressed as hospital and medicine as medicine. Listen to how native speakers say these words in health advertisements or public service announcements. With these words, you can confidently talk about your physical state, seek help when needed, and understand basic health advice. You're equipping yourself with the language for self-care. In our next part, we'll explore the world of shopping and commerce. We'll learn vocabulary for clothes, colors, sizes, and how to make transactions in stores. This will prepare you for one of the most common daily activities, buying what you need and want. Get ready to hit the shops. Have you ever fallen in love with a piece of clothing in a store, only to have your excitement turn to anxiety when you need to ask for your size? I remember spotting a beautiful blue sweater on a rack, but it was too small. I wanted to ask the assistant for a larger one, but my mind went blank. I kept pointing at the sweater and then at myself, hoping she'd understand. She smiled kindly and brought me another size, but I felt so frustrated. That day, I realized that shopping isn't just about having money, it's about having the words to express what you need. Whether you're buying groceries, clothes, or gifts, knowing the vocabulary for shopping turns a stressful task into a pleasant experience. Today, we're going to master the essential words and phrases for shopping and commerce. We'll cover clothes, colors, sizes, and how to make transactions smoothly. This will empower you to navigate any store with confidence. Let's start with clothing vocabulary. These are the nouns you'll need most often: shirt, t-shirt, pants, jeans, shorts, dress, skirt, jacket, coat, shoes, boots, socks, hat, and gloves. But it's not enough to know the item, you need to describe it. That's where colors come in. Basic colors are crucial: red, blue, green, yellow, black, white, brown, gray, orange, purple. You can say, "I like the blue shirt," or "Do you have these pants in black?" Next, sizes are key for finding what fits. For clothes, we have small, medium, large, and extra large. For shoes, you need to know your shoe size. Phrases like "What size is this?" or "Do you have this in a medium?" are incredibly useful. Now, let's talk about the transaction itself. You need verbs like to buy, to sell, to pay, to cost, to try on. And nouns like price, money, cash, credit card, store, shop, market, discount, sale. Important questions include: how much is this? Where is the fitting room? Can I try this on? Do you accept credit cards? When you're ready to purchase, you can say, "I'll take it," or "I'd like to buy this." If you're not sure, "I'm just looking, thank you." Remember, politeness goes a long way. Always use please and thank you. Learning this vocabulary is best done through simulation. Role-play a shopping scenario at home. Be both the customer and the shop assistant. Practice dialogues like, Hello, can I help you? Yes, I'm looking for a white shirt. What size are you? I'm a medium. Here you are. Thank you. Can I try it on? Another great tip is to go through your closet and name all your clothes in English. This is a red dress. These are black shoes. When you're online shopping, set the website to English. This exposes you to product descriptions, sizes, and checkout processes in a real-world context. Pronunciation tips: pay attention to word stress. Clothing is pronounced cloth ing with stress on the first syllable. Size rhymes with eyes, and color is pronounced cul. The th in clothes is silent, it sounds like close. Practice the difference between this and these, this for singular, these for plural. Also, in fast speech, how much is this might sound like how much is this with linked words. Listen to native speakers in shopping videos or podcasts to catch the rhythm. With these words and phrases, you can confidently browse, ask for help, and make purchases. You'll be able to enjoy the thrill of finding the perfect item without the language barrier. In our next part, we'll explore vocabulary for describing the weather and the seasons. This will help you make small talk, plan activities, and understand weather forecasts, a key part of daily conversation in any language. Get ready to talk about the sun, rain, and everything in between. Have you ever been caught in a sudden downpour without an umbrella, desperately trying to ask a stranger if the rain would stop soon, but all you could manage was a helpless gesture towards the sky? I have. I was visiting a coastal town, and the weather changed from sunny to stormy in minutes. I wanted to ask a shopkeeper, "Is this rain going to last long?" but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I stood under an awning, feeling foolish and wet. That day, I realized that weather vocabulary isn't just for polite conversation, it's a practical tool for navigation, safety, and daily decision-making. Whether you're planning a trip, dressing for the day, or simply making small talk, knowing how to describe the weather and seasons is incredibly empowering. Today, we're going to learn the essential words and phrases to talk about the sun, rain, wind, and snow, as well as the four seasons. This will help you understand forecasts, share experiences, and connect with people in any English-speaking setting. Let's start with the fundamental weather adjectives. These words describe the conditions outside. The most common ones are sunny, cloudy, rainy, windy, snowy, foggy, and stormy. Notice the pattern: many are formed by adding y to a noun, like cloud to cloudy or rain to rainy. You can use them in simple sentences: "It is sunny today," or "the weather is windy." But we also need the nouns themselves: sun, cloud, rain, wind, snow, fog, storm. This allows you to say, "I see the sun," or "there is a lot of wind." For more detail, learn words for intensity: light rain, heavy rain, strong wind, gentle breeze. This helps you be more precise. Next, let's talk about the seasons: spring, summer, autumn, or fall, and winter. Each season brings its own weather patterns. Spring is often associated with renewal, warm, with showers and flowers. Summer is typically hot and sunny, perfect for beaches. Autumn is cooler, with windy days and falling leaves. Winter is cold, with snow in many regions. You can describe your preferences: "I love summer because of the warm weather," or "winter is my favorite season for skiing." Also, learn related vocabulary. For spring, words like bloom and grow; for summer, vacation and heat; for autumn, harvest and crisp; for winter, frost and ice. Temperature is a key part of weather discussion. Essential words include hot, warm, cool, cold, freezing, and boiling. You might say, "It is warm outside," or "the water is cold." To ask about temperature, use "What is the temperature?" or "Is it hot?" Additionally, learn verbs like to rain, to snow, to shine, to blow. For example, "It is raining," or "The sun is shining." How can you master this vocabulary? Integrate it into your daily routine. Each morning, check the weather and describe it aloud in English. Today is cloudy and cool. It might rain in the afternoon. Keep a small journal where you write one sentence about the weather every day. This consistent practice builds long-term memory. Another great tip is to watch English language weather reports online. They use visual cues and repetitive phrases, making it easier to learn. You can also use weather apps set to English, so you see terms like precipitation or humidity regularly. For seasons, create a mind map for each one, listing associated words, activities, and clothing. Pronunciation tips: focus on word stress. For instance, temperature has stress on the first syllable, temperature. Weather and weather are homophones, they sound the same, but context distinguishes them. Practice the th sound in weather and thunder. The word snow has a long O sound, rhyming with go, while now is different. Listen to native speakers in videos or podcasts. Pay attention to how they say phrases like chance of rain or partly cloudy. Also, note the intonation in questions like "Is it going to snow?" where the voice often rises at the end. With these words, you can engage in everyday conversations, from "beautiful day, isn't it?" to "I heard there's a storm coming." You'll be able to plan activities based on the forecast and understand warnings. This knowledge makes you more adaptable and confident outdoors. In our next part, we'll delve into vocabulary for emotions and feelings. This will enable you to express joy, sadness, anger, and excitement, enriching your personal interactions and helping you share your inner world. Get ready to talk about your heart. Think back to the very beginning of this journey. Remember that feeling of standing in the supermarket, the word for milk just out of reach? Now, imagine yourself walking into that same supermarket today. You can ask for what you need, you can understand the prices, you can even make small talk with the cashier about the weather. That is the transformation you have achieved. We started with 300 words, but what we really built was a foundation of confidence. This isn't the end, it's a magnificent beginning. You are no longer a beginner trapped in silence. You are a communicator, equipped with the essential tools for daily life. As we reach the final part of our guide, I want to leave you with a roadmap for the future, how to keep this momentum going and continue your exciting journey toward fluency. We have journeyed through the core vocabulary of life itself. We began with the fundamental building blocks, pronouns and the verb to be, the stage upon which every sentence is built. We added action verbs, injecting movement and desire into your speech. Adjectives and nouns brought color and specificity, allowing you to paint vivid pictures with your words. We mastered the art of asking questions, unlocking the ability to seek information and connect with others. We practiced phrases for greetings, shopping, and dining, turning theory into practical action. We conquered numbers, time, and dates, adding precision to your conversations. We explored vocabulary for family, home, food, city navigation, work, hobbies, health, shopping, and weather. You now have a toolkit of 300 words that are alive and interconnected, ready to be used in a million different combinations. But what comes next? The most important step is to use what you have learned every single day. Language is a skill, not just knowledge. It thrives on practice. Here are my final pieces of advice. First, immerse yourself in English as much as possible. Change the language setting on your phone and social media to English. Listen to English music and pay attention to the lyrics. Watch movies or TV shows with English subtitles. Start with children's shows. They use simple, clear language and gradually move to more complex content. Second, find a speaking partner. This could be a friend who is also learning, a language exchange partner online, or even a tutor. The goal is to practice speaking without fear of mistakes. Remember, mistakes are not failures, they are proof that you are trying. Third, read. Start with simple books, perhaps children's books or graded readers designed for learners. Don't try to understand every word, focus on the overall meaning. As you read, you will see the words from our list used in new contexts, which reinforces them deeply. Fourth, keep a simple journal. Write just a few sentences each day about what you did, how you felt, or what you saw. This connects English to your personal life and makes it relevant. Finally, be patient and kind to yourself. Learning a language is a marathon, not a sprint. Some days will feel easy, and others will be challenging. Celebrate your small victories, the first time you understand a full sentence in a song, the first time you have a dream in English, the first time you give directions successfully. You have done the hard work of building a strong foundation. The words you now know are the most frequent and useful words in the English language. They are the seeds from which fluency will grow. Every new word you learn from now on will be easier because you have a structure to attach it to. You have the key. Now, it's time to open every door you encounter. Thank you for allowing me to be your guide on this first, crucial part of your adventure. I am excited for you. Go out there and speak your world into existence. You are ready.